one. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. We've been doing these weekend broadcasts. Simply put, the election is pretty much on our heels at this point. 29 days. 29 days into what I think just about everybody would quickly acknowledge is definitely, now this is a phrase you hear all the time, but oftentimes you hear this phrase. Many folks will say it has just simply become sort of a cliche. But I don't buy it this time. I don't buy it this time. The phrase I'm talking about, 2024, the most important election in our lifetime. This is something you will hear in every national election, every presidential election. They will claim it is the biggest, most important election in our lifetime. Kind of like you hear Trump, best and brightest. You ain't never seen an election like this. This is the one that, in my humble opinion, and I'm assuming a hell of a lot of you folks out there as well, this is the one where I think we all kind of agree, right? I think we would all kind of agree that this probably is going to be the most important election of our lifetime. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're in something that's likely gonna be historic. But what I want to ask you, and I see the comments, Julie says amen and amen. Yeah, I don't think anyone that is alive and of adult age will forget this election, regardless of how it turns out. I'm going to say, if you participate, there are going to be adults that won't participate in this election. I talk to them all the time. There are plenty of adults who tell you that they're sitting this one out. They're not a fan of Kamala Harris, neither Trump nor Trump. They're going to just sit this one out. I don't understand folks like that, for the simple fact of one of these individuals, whether it's Kamala Harris or former President Trump, are going to become the commander in chief and undoubtedly do things that will affect your life. I don't think there's hardly anyone in America that will not be affected in some way, fashion, or form by future legislation coming from one of these individuals. So sitting this one out just does not make sense. Just does not make sense. Looking in the comments, keeping it real says Trump isn't going to jail. LOL. Hey, before I continue on the program, I'm going to say I tend to agree with you. I don't tend to think that Trump is likely to do any time behind bars. Now, that's not to say there may not be future guilty verdicts coming down the pipe for Trump. If he doesn't win the election and those court cases continue, it is not in my opinion that he will either be acquitted or all those charges against him will be dropped. I think that if Trump does not get reelected, he will be found guilty in some of those cases. But that doesn't mean he's going to go to jail. But we'll talk about that as we continue on. So what I'm asking you folks is, as you see, the live stream is indeed titled "The Power of Trump." I'm going to ask you folks, because I've been watching the Sunday shows, I'm sure most of you folks either seen the vice presidential debate or at least seen snippets of it. So I want to play a couple clips for you before we begin engaging with the audience, because we are indeed talking about the power of Trump. Now, this particular clip is indeed vice presidential hopeful Tim Walz on the debate stage with vice presidential hopeful J.D. Vance.
This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind? And
that is a damning non-answer.
Has she?
Now you can see where we're going with this. Now that's J.D. Vance refusing to even really acknowledge whether Trump won the 2020 election or not. Just really refusing to answer the question entirely. But I want to continue on with another close Trump associate. This is Lewandowski. also part of the Trump administration, and he is on CNN being interviewed.
Yeah, Corey, why is this so difficult for the Trump campaign to answer? I mean, it's 2024. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Can you answer that?
Jim, I think it's very simple. The American people have passed the 2020 election. They're focused on an election which is just under 5 weeks away. And what we have an opportunity to do now is to talk about two different visions for America. And what J.D. Vance laid out last night is a very different vision than what Tim Walz and Kamala Harris want to say. So, look, we can go back and relitigate the 2020 election, or we can look at what we can do to make America better for the everyday Americans who are struggling under Bidenomics.
Yeah,
They're struggling
Corey,
under...
it's not relitigating. It's just a simple question. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? I mean, that's an easy...
Jim, why are we talking about 2020 anymore? Does the American people care about the 2020 election anymore, or do they care?
Now, I could continue on with this, but you're not going to get an answer out of him. You're not going to get an answer, and that did not happen in the interview. But once again, now I'm watching This Week with George Stephanopoulos earlier today. You know, the Sunday shows, Meet the Press, CBS This Morning. I tend to watch all the Sunday shows. This is This Week with George Stephanopoulos featuring Mike Johnson, the current speaker.
But if we can move on now. I do want to ask you a question that Senator Vance did not answer at this week's debate. Can you say unequivocally that Joe Biden won the 2020 election and Donald Trump lost?
See, this is the game that is always played by mainstream media with leading Republicans. It's a gotcha game. You want us to litigate things that happened 4 years ago when we're talking about the future. We're not going to talk about what happened in 2020. We're going to talk about 2024 and how we're going to solve the problems for the American people. I think this game that's played all the time, I'm not going to engage in it. We're not talking about that. Joe Biden has been the president for almost 4 years. Everybody needs to get over this and move forward. That's what we need to talk about. What happens on November 5 and the days after that? That's what demand for us to talk about.
So like Senator Vance, you cannot say unequivocally that Joe Biden won the 2020 election and Donald Trump lost?
George, I'm the Speaker of the House. I work with the President of the United States all the time.
I'm going to go
Joe
ahead.
Biden has been the...
Stop it there. I think it's pretty obvious he's not going to answer the question. But here's what I want to ask you folks, because this is titled The Power of Trump. In fact, I have the screen behind me saying this is Trump country, because I do believe it is indeed Trump country. Why am I saying that? Because it does seem to be as if there is a significant amount of fear of former President Trump. Why is it that folks that support Trump or that are Republican refuse to acknowledge whether Biden won or not? Now, let me make it clear for you folks. This is for my beloved MAGA side. If you believe Biden stole the 2020 election, then why don't they just say that? Why won't they say whether Biden won or not? Why are they? It's almost as if there is a fear, and I want to hear from you folks. Do you believe or do you see any sort of fear of President Trump? Because all three of the gentlemen I just showed you, including Vice Presidential hopeful J.D. Vance, could have simply told the moderators at the vice presidential debate, hell no, I won't say Biden won the election because he stole it. Why not just come out and say that? Why the runaround answers? Former President Trump believes the election is stolen, and he's saying that clear as day. Why are all these folks giving the runaround? So I'm going to ask you folks, that is going to be topic number one. Now, we have a couple of topics, but certainly I want to hear from you guys on that. Topic number two, real quick, Will G, Super Chat, thank you very much, says the Trump campaign is good at messaging that every horrible thing they did is a figment of our imagination. Wow. So what Will is stating in the comments is that the messaging from Trump is significant, and that they are able to convince us, the American people, the voters, that things that they may have done is simply a figment of our imagination. And what is the common phrase, don't believe your lying eyes or something like that? He's stating that they can do things and convince folks it did not happen. And that's what we're talking about. Now, the second topic is a little bit more civilized, I would say. This is the idea that Kamala Harris could possibly become the next commander-in-chief. There's no guarantees. It's a very close race. But what I want to ask, and this is a question that's certainly going to be directed at MAGA, what are your concerns? What are your fears if we end up with a Kamala Walsh administration? Now, I know folks are favoring Trump. We get it. And there's a lot of legitimate reasons to want Trump elected. There's a lot of legitimate reasons to want Kamala Harris elected. But what are your biggest concerns if America puts Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in charge? That is what we're going to be discussing. As always, we don't block, ban, or censor anyone. The program is, always will remain MAGA friendly. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone. You can be critical of anyone in the comment section, including yours truly. That's how free speech works. We go left of Bernie Sanders to I'm having dinner with Q. We allow everybody to speak. So looking in the comments, it's the same thing since the 90s. Our politicians all sell our freedom for their wealth. I don't know, that says Macaroni. I don't know if what we're dealing with right now compares to the George H.W. or Bill Clinton administration. This seems to be a bit different. I mean, when Bill Clinton got in trouble for his exploits with Monica Lewinsky, I don't recall the Democrats being this defiant, this supportive of what he did. I think it's a little bit stronger this time. Looking in the comments, so end game is to get rid of that pesky Constitution. Damn, that's scary. You're saying the end game is to get rid of the Constitution. I really hope you're wrong with that. So 50-year-old, better yet, this is coming from Robert in the comments. Robert Newby says, so 50-year low inflation rate is a bad thing? Having a secured border is a bad thing? Is having no new wars a bad thing? That's a great set of questions. Now, what he's saying is, if Trump gets elected, he's talking about, a 50-year low inflation rate. He's talking about having a secure border. And he's also bringing up the notion, the fact that there were no major military conflicts under Trump, certainly not compared to what we have under Biden. And he said, is that really a bad thing to go back to that administration? I will tell you this before I go to taking callers. No. Excellent point. No, none of that is a bad thing. However, let's be clear. Trump 2016 to 2020, there's no guarantee. We expect that if Trump is reelected, we're going to get the finer things in life that we may have felt we were getting from 2016 to 2020. There's no guarantee that stuff's going to come back. You got a lot of voters, a lot of MAGA in particular, that believe the price of fuel is going to be $2 a gallon that Trump gets. There's no guarantee that stuff's going to come back. I mean, we're expecting Trump to literally turn back time to, quote, share and give us the prices from 2016, some 8-9 years ago. I don't know if there's a guarantee he can do that. But I do understand people believe that. So going to the box, but the ending the wars and things like that, I can see why people would support Trump. But once again, there's no guarantee that Benjamin Netanyahu or Vladimir Putin or Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine are going to do what Trump suggests, even though Trump is going around and saying, if you elect me, I'm going to get all these men to calm down and stop fighting with each other. There's no guarantee that's going to happen. I mean, it's working with the constituents. People do believe he's going to be able to do it, but there's no guarantee of that. Twain to Square, one of my subscribers, good afternoon, or better yet, good evening. Welcome to the program, Twain. That my ass will hurt more. Twain, good afternoon.
What's up, guy? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to have you. Is there some sort of fear of former President Trump?
Again, I'm a strong Kamala supporter. So, I'm comparing the two apples to oranges.
Okay.
And I see so many things that scares me completely about Trump. Again, ego. I think if you look at I compare Netanyahu and Trump. I look at them both in the same boat.
You're talking about Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel.
Of Israel and Trump. Netanyahu are doing things to continue the war, to keep power, or to stay out of jail. And I feel like Trump is running again for the same purposes, for his own benefit in one way. Okay? I fear for the Constitution, as someone said earlier in the comments, that he felt like they will get rid of the Constitution. That's one of my fears.
But hold on, Twain. That's your opinion of Trump. Why is it that so many folks that support Trump, as I played on the monitor, why won't they admit Biden either won the election or come out and say no, he stole it? Why are they playing this Stonewall when they're asked the question?
Because once again, it's not about so much what's right. It's about what they figure will give them the most power or to shine the most light on their positions. I was looking at something today. Like I said, I'm retired now, so I get a lot of time to do research.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at some of the numbers.
Okay.
Trump had $8.8 trillion deficit. He paid, I think it was like 616 billion paid down on the deficit. In 3 years, Joe has a 6.2 deficit, but he paid 1.9 on the deficit. So how can we be looking at Trump's economy in a positive light? I just don't see it. I mean, it's just out there in the open for everybody to see.
Now, I've heard that as well. I'll tell you why Trump's economy is being viewed more favorably than Biden-Harris. And that is, as I always say, perception is reality. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what the analysts tell you. If you go to the grocery store and you can't afford groceries, their word is meaningless to you. People can see that their bank account doesn't go as far under Biden as it did under Trump.
I can understand that, but as a whole, when it comes right down to it, which benefits the country, which hurts the country the most? Prior to Trump, all we heard from the Republicans was we are spending our grandchildren and children into a hole. Well, aren't they looking at the same numbers now and saying the same things? But they're not. They're just coming along, going along by whatever it is that Trump says. I'm afraid this man, it just frightens me when we're not looking at what's best for the country, but more like what one man thinks.
Well, they are. Now, just to say this, they have a difference of opinion between you, but they are looking at what's best for the country. That's why they're voting for Trump. Real quick, by the way, folks, tap the screen, get the likes up to about 10,000. Very small audience here, but tap the screen, help get the likes up. They see Biden and Harris as bungling the economy, leading us down a path towards World War III and a host of other issues. So they are thinking about the country. That's why they're voting against Kamala Harris.
What is one of the tools that's used to fight inflation during hard times? Slowing down the economy. Yeah. Okay? When you slow down the economy, what happens? The unemployment rate goes up. Is one of the main keys. Joe didn't do that. He didn't slow down the economy. The unemployment rate is low.
4.1%. The unemployment rate is at 4.1%, which is pretty close to. I think 4% is the benchmark, so he's pretty close to that.
That's what I'm saying. All the numbers are telling us one thing, but all we hear is how much Trump's economy was. But the numbers, which are right out there for everyone to see, tells us that it's not true. That it's not true.
Well, like Bobby in the comments has said, because we have to work 2 jobs under Biden Harris. But let me read this to you. Guess what on YouTube? Thank you for hang on a second, Twain. On YouTube, now listen to this. This came from Guess What, Twain. He says, Kamala, because the question is, what do folks fear or what are folks concerned about with a Kamala Harris presidency if she is elected? He's saying that more political correctness, restriction of rights, war, taxes, and those who don't follow are going to be considered racist and Nazi followers. Country tore up. How do you respond to MAGA that have those concerns?
Everyone has an opinion, and I can't say that I'm 100% correct. But to me, Trump's economy is an old Reagan's economy. It's basically trickle-down theory.
Mm-hmm.
Joe grew it from the center, where the center was able to grow closer to the max incomes, but it also trickled down to those who was less than. They had an opportunity for it.
But Twain, I hear your point, and the analysts agree with you. But I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. People aren't feeling that. People are being told the economy is doing great under Biden, but they are not feeling it. You got to get the people to feel what you're saying.
So to me, Tim, it's saying it's more than in the economy. People I don't know what it is, but I think it's more than an economy that has them voting for Trump. I think it is, because if we, and these are, I'm always joking, MAGA, about things, but they're smart people too. They are. They're not stupid. They can look at the same numbers I do, and I'm not an economist from a long time.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Let's not go away from what you said originally. You said you believe people are voting for Trump, and it's more than just the economy. I need you to elaborate on that.
Yes. I think she's a woman. I think that's a major part of it.
Sexism.
And I think, okay, it's the border problem, but here's the deal. I think if given a chance, if we're lucky enough not to get Trump again, but I think if Kamala we're lucky enough to get Kamala in office, she will do something about the border problem. Because I feel like Kamala will listen to the people more than Trump.
Are you gotta be kidding me? Hold on, hang on. She was in office for the first 2 years saying there was nothing wrong at the border, and people are going to ask the obvious question. If you believe she's going to do all of that, why the hell didn't she do it with the Biden administration the 4 years she's been in office?
But how could she? How could she? She don't make policy. Joe does.
Nothing.
And then one other thing. When she was Attorney General in California, okay, there was a gentleman a policeman was killed.
Okay.
And the person that killed the policeman, a major part of the state wanted her to.
And Will G, I see your comment.
But she, as the prosecuting attorney, said, no, I'm not going for the death penalty. It's just the way it is. Because that was her personal belief. But then she had the opportunity as Attorney General to put her own stamp on going forward for the whole state of California, just to do away with the death penalty. But she refused to, because she said, this is my personal belief. I do not have the right to take it from the government or the state of California, which the predominancy of the state wants. So she did what she felt personally was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. But when it came down to what the state wanted, she listened to the state. She didn't make it a personal.
Well, I'm just going to say this. If you listen to the state and they make a decision that the people are not favorable to, then you're going to get the blame for doing it. I got to move it on. I'll give you the last word, though.
I got one last question for you.
Sure.
I got in trouble with TikTok. I got one of those things community power things like Gen X guy.
Yeah.
But here's what I said. Have you seen the picture of it? The black guy and the two white guys fighting?
Yeah, I got a strike for that as well.
I didn't make a joke about it. All I said was, I typed in the comments. I said, the guy in the khaki pants, it wasn't racial. By no point was it racial, or no point did I condone violence. But I said, the guy in the khaki pants is fighting like a little bitch. But I spelled it.
Whoa!
But they kicked me for that. And I know
You're gonna get dinged for that shit every time, Twain. I gotta move it on. I can't believe you're surprised that happened. Huh? You're gonna get dinged for shit like that every time. Twain, I gotta go. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right. Now, he said the guy is fighting like a little bitch. I can't understand why they would strike me for that. Really? Okay, all right. Moving on with the program, I do want to respond to, that was funny there too, Twain. Will G, Trumplicans want laws prior to 1865. That would have been right before the Emancipation Act. So he's saying that Trump supporters, or as he referred to them as Trumplicans, want laws prior to 1865 in a 1950 economy, just after the Great Depression and just before the Lyndon B. Johnson Civil Rights Act, a time when white people can do and say what they want to brown people with 5 cents a gallon gas. That's a mouthful. That is frightening, Will G. I really hope. Now let me tackle some of that. Now, first of all, you're saying Trump supporters want laws before 1865. So you're basically saying that Trump supporters favor really, I don't want to say marginalizing. I mean, really just like oppressing minorities. Damn. But you said, but then you said they want a 1950s economy. Now, I think we all, to be honest with you, we all would want a 1950s economy. That's right after World War II ended, and there were jobs everywhere. Now, clearly, we're not treating minorities equally, but it was a really good economy at that point. Just after the Great Depression and, what else he says, and before the Lyndon B. Johnson Civil Rights Act. Wow. I'm going to say I can't agree with this totally, but I do see some of it that's valid. Because I do believe, and I invite my MAGA viewers to, correct me if you think I'm wrong, and that's how the program works. They're all about free speech. You don't have to listen to a damn thing on this program you disagree with without stating your case. We don't block, ban, or censor. So if you hear something coming out that sounds ridiculous from anybody in the comments up to and including myself, you can feel free to comment without being censored. But I do believe when he says, just before the LBJ Civil Rights Act, I believe there might be some validity to that. Certainly now, I certainly believe the gains of the LGBT community, MAGA is no fan of that. MAGA is absolutely no fan of that, up to and including the right for same-sex marriages as well. So I do believe there are some civil rights accomplishments that MAGA would love to see reversed. And that is, I think any gains of the LGBT community, MAGA would be in favor of turning back. So I will agree with that part of it. Looking in the comments, Trump gets a pass because his followers don't have an attention span. I don't know about that. Good afternoon, Sofa King. Real quick, looking in the comments, wanting to address one more super chat. We are not going back, says Will G. That is the slogan of Kamala Harris, but if she loses, that slogan may become incorrect in some areas. As I mentioned, same-sex marriage. Going to ask on TikTok, because I'm on the main profile and we had it down for a week or so, so the numbers on here are pretty low, but maybe TikTok will, as you heard my last caller talking about censorship, even though I don't block, ban, or censor anyone, I can't control the TikTok gods, and they seem to be heavy on censorship, so they're keeping the numbers low. But as long as you folks keep tapping the screen, get the likes up. The likes are also real damn low right now, so that may have something to do with it, but it does help out the algorithm when you tap the screen, smash that like button on YouTube. It brings in more MAGA because my FYP is MAGA oriented. So tap the screen, get the likes up, smash that like button on YouTube. Going to the box, we'll keep it going with another one of my subscribers, Melvin. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Trump condemned for. Okay, so this is real quick. Hang on a second, Melvin. Shay says, Tim, condemn Trump for lying about this hurricane. FEMA is doing great, and he is skewing to something. Well, let me just say right off the bat, I agree that Trump is indeed passing misinformation for political gain in regards to certainly suggesting that in North Carolina, the governor is only helping Democrats. That's not true. That is not true. I don't think anyone, even on the Republican side, even this other, you may have folks on the ground in North Carolina that's saying that, but you can find people on the ground that'll say any damn thing. But I don't believe that's true at all. Melvin, good evening.
What's going on, my friend? How you doing?
I'm doing good. But I'm asking a question because you see the live is titled "The Power of Trump." Do you believe that there may be a possibility that some Republican politicians are afraid of him because they're anytime they're asked, "Did Biden win the 2020 election?" they won't answer the question. Why is that?
Well, they're not afraid of Trump. They're afraid of his following. You got to understand. Trump has the equivalent of the Beyonce Beehive.
Oh my God! What about the Swifties? What about the Swifties?
Now the Swifties aren't as violent. They just complain. But when Trump's supporters get mad, I mean, they go nuts. They get banned on social media. They get fired from their jobs. It's crazy. So I think that's the issue. The fact is that nobody wants to attach themselves to it because they have a base. You still have a Republican base that still don't like Trump, but you have a larger base that is Trump mania. So they're going to play. Politicians always play the middle of the field. I mean, there's a lot of Democrats that don't agree with the LGBT community, but
True.
a lot of Democrats agree. So they're going to play the middle of the field, and hey, it doesn't affect me, so I'm getting votes. That's a really good pushback. That makes a lot of sense. There are, particularly in the black community, for instance, there's a lot of anti-LGBT Democrats. I mean, homophobes, if you will, because I know I grew up in that community. Everybody was homophobic as hell. That's how we were brought up. And now they're all calling themselves allies. And I do agree with you that some of them may be just simply going along to get along. So if that's the case, though, then that means what the Trump supporters are doing is not that bad because the Democrats are doing it too. Well, again, I said this the first time I was on your show. The left wing and the right wing are a part of the same bird. Okay? The same bird. So it doesn't matter. Like, everybody can say what they want to. You can hear Trump talk crazy about the Clintons and Cricket Hillary and everything. But if you look at interviews from years past, he said she's one of the most intelligent people that he's ever met, and she's amazing, and she's gonna be great for the country. There's this. It depends on the day of the week on what your politician is gonna say.
Well, but let me push back and say this. That's what Trump is doing. I don't see that. I don't see a whole lot of folks that Obama think is a piece of shit now that he was celebrating back in the day. Like, Trump with General Milley or Mad Dog Mattis, he's dragging him on stage saying he's great and now he hates the dude. I didn't see that out of Obama, Biden, Bush. I don't. Go ahead.
Well, it is a Trump era as far as being able to be bluntly just out there and just saying things. Now, Obama was known to take shots, but he did it in a very ethical and professional way.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, give me an example of someone who Obama, for instance, you brought Obama up, somebody who Obama was openly promoting, favorable to, and then later on was taking, as you say, shots at him. Because we can come up with a lot of people that Trump has done that to.
Well, yeah, well, true, but that's my point. There's some people that Obama supported, and then there were some
crossroads in the road, and they parted ways. He did not take a stance of coming and saying, "Oh, this dude's a piece of trash. He's horrible."
I don't. Who did he even part? Who did he even part ways with?
It was a lot of the people from HUD. He had a lot of different turnover in the HUD.
Okay.
There were some people in the EEO, the Equal Opportunity Office.
Okay, so you're talking about low level unknown people though.
Well, I mean, it depends on who you're talking to, because I mean, I pay attention to that because that's
you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that own the national.
But again, that shows the evidence that Obama actually had a good run as far as his officers, the people he put in place. He didn't have to, think about this. Trump, he literally fired half of his staff, and now everybody's crazy and he hates all of them. And he has Taylor Swift now because she just came out for Harris. So it's like, that's the thing. He has this 5-year-old mentality in regards to, you can't come to my birthday party. I'm taking my toys and going home. But the sad thing is, man, this is the thing. This is the thing that bothers me. Is honestly, I'm still leaning towards voting for him.
So what? So then you would be the perfect guest to have on to ask my second topic, what we've been asking, and that is indeed, what are your biggest concerns if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz become president and VP? What are you most concerned about? What are your fears? What makes you hesitant to vote for them and consider Trump?
Well, because your guy that was on here first, Twain. First of all, was he drinking some brown liquor? Because he was not making any sense to. Here's the thing.
Wait, who are you talking about?
Your last guest.
You're talking about Twain. Okay. Oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, bro, what is he saying?
I understood him.
No, but here's the thing. As far as what I'm reserved about right now with Harris and Wise is just the fact of, one, she's been in office for 3 years, and he had mentioned she doesn't write bills, she doesn't do
that. That is true, by the way, and that is true though.
But here's another thing. She was actually given, vice presidents are given this secondary, hey, I want you to focus. This is your focus point. Let's do this. Let's do that. As much as she does not write bills, she does have the ability to influence. Okay? So she's second in command. So, hey, Joe, look, we really need to act on this. This is probably going to help. This is what you told me to look at. I looked at this. This is where we're at. Boom. That's where there was nothing with it.
Yeah, but wait, hold on. Let me ask you, because I know I get where you're going with this, and a lot of folks do chastise, including myself. I've chastised Kamala Harris on the border as well. You're talking about influence, and she could go to the border and maybe give recommendations to Biden. But at the end of the day, how do we know for certain she did not do what you're pointing to and maybe got rejected by him? How do you know she didn't do that?
Well, if you look at certain press releases, they actually talk about the agendas for the day in regards to our elected officials. I know in the state of Kentucky, you can actually see that with our governor and lieutenant governor. With the president, they actually give an agenda. They do their press release every day as far as what their focal points. They're not going to give you every item, but they're showing you some high level things of which they're working on. But this has not been something, because again, if it was something, and this is something that people your elected officials get elected, and the number one thing they want to do when they get elected is get reelected. So if you're trying to push, knowing it's an election year, you're trying to push for more numbers, why would you not show attention to something that is a big issue for Americans, and that's border security?
But wait a minute. Now I got to now I got to put my other devil's advocate hat on. Towards the election, she did do what you're talking about. They came up with a bipartisan border bill. Now I'm with the folks who say that was too damn late, but yeah, but they did do it though.
You got to do it early enough where it looks like it's in good faith, not late enough where you know it's for a re-election. You know what I'm saying? It's like cleaning the house before your mom gets home from work. But you want to make sure the floor is dry if you have to mop the floor, okay?
Okay.
But you got to do it early enough where you don't screw yourself over, but you got to do it, enough time where everything is, and it looks like you did it earlier that day. So that's the thing. I don't feel, what's stopping me from voting for them is just there's a lot of policy that does not affect me, but they want that to be their focal point.
Now, okay, so now you've given me some legitimate reasons why you may pass on Kamala. What's making you view Trump favorably?
Because I have 279 employees that depend upon me to actually continue our company and be profitable. And I had more money in Trump's administration than I did here, and we're doing better. It's just the fact that once you get past a certain dollar amount of revenue, you get clipped. Okay, and I'm not saying I'm a multi-millionaire, but we have a very profitable business. We are a multi-million-dollar company, but we will. There's a lot of different legislation that's been passed. When Joe came in, his first 3 months, that he passed for waste regulations that Trump did not have. Okay.
Wait a minute. Now you know how that sounds. You're saying that Trump.
No. But here's the thing. Obama didn't even have it.
But you still know how that sounds. Is that Biden came in and passed regulations in regards to dealing with waste that you guys. What were you doing? I mean, were you dumping your waste in certain neighborhoods? What did he pass to? What did he pass to hurt you?
We're doing the same thing. We're taking our products to landfills, but rather than us pay a 3%, we're paying 19%.
Why?
Because he passed that to actually pull more on this green energy. This was part of this whole thing with the green energy. Okay, so like that was like one of the. I don't even have like the number. This was earlier.
That's a big change. From 3 to 19% is big though.
Yes, exactly. And I'm the one that's seeing this. I'm sitting down with my CFO. I'm sitting down with my CEO. And I'm the CEO of this company. And like we're sitting here talking about it. I'm like, yo, why did this bill go up? I'm calling my vendor like, yo, do we need to find somebody else? They're like, no. They're like, this is what we got from our corporate. You look at their corporate. This is legislation that was passed for the community. Like, there's a lot of things that are changing. I mean, like this, like of course, I'm not an enemy of the LGBTQ, but I'm not a fan either. Like, I don't need my kids being exposed to certain things. That's a minute thing. But then there's a lot of other stuff that, as far as with Democrats, that they want to continue to play the same game. They do not appeal to the African American community until year 3 or 4 of any type of election.
How could you say that? I mean, he came in immediately. Now, the LGBT stuff, because I'm listening to you, and it definitely sounds like you should, based on what your concerns, you should vote for Trump. But when it comes to not appealing to African Americans, you do realize Trump is promising to bring back stop and frisk in liberal cities and give police immunity from prosecution. You think that's favorable to African Americans?
He's saying he wants to do that, but people have to also understand a lot of this stuff is checks and balances. He has to go through every, he can't just sign an executive order on that.
Well, he can sign an executive order to give federal officers immunity. He can do that. Those are his cops.
Yeah, but federal officers are like U.S. Marshals. The majority of the people they're looking for is different. I did 9 years.
You know how many? Wait. You know how many African Americans deal with the feds? I mean, there's plenty of African Americans in the feds. So those cops that show up to arrest you, you're bringing up the marshals. They got immunity. So if they go in there and beat the shit out of you, so they got immunity. You're favoring that?
That to me, again, if you're voting for your interests and you're not voting for other people's interests, like, you have to be able to gauge that. Like, for me, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I don't want nobody to get shot unjustly. Okay, like I said, I did 9 years in law enforcement. I don't want nobody to get shot. They don't deserve to get shot. Okay?
Do you favor him giving cops immunity from prosecution, as he stated?
Hell no. I don't favor that. No.
Do you favor bringing back stop and frisk?
No.
Okay. So just because you mentioned the Democrats not doing anything for African.
But that's one. Like, but I'm looking at that one thing. As far as that issue of the stop and frisk and the immunity, which is crazy. Like, that's crazy. Because here's the thing: a lot of law enforcement officers don't even want to stop and frisk, because you're opening them up to potential violence.
Well, I'm just bringing this up because you mentioned him. You mentioned the Democrats not doing anything for African Americans. If we had Republicans in power, like Rudolph Giuliani and some of them, and Sheriff Joe Arpaio, you would have stop and frisk because they were running on it.
That's like saying all black people are criminals.
I haven't heard of any Republicans going against stop and frisk.
They're not going to go through it right now. It's an election year.
Why would you not go against something that's a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment because it's an election year?
Because the majority of people in these red states, these Republican states, they getting ready to do their thing over here. Okay, they know that they gotta get elected. It's not a liberal state. So, like for instance, Kentucky. I'm in Kentucky. So, like you got Mitch McConnell, which I don't think he's running after this year. You got Governor Beshear, which he's very liberal. Which I feel like he's a really good governor. He's phenomenal. He did an amazing job these last couple years. I thought he would be the VP nominee. I would actually be more favorable if he was.
Wait. But let me ask you something though. You do realize that when they have stop and frisk, it predominantly affects people of color, right?
Yes, depending on where you're at. That's correct.
Is there anywhere it's been used that people of color are not in?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, come to Eastern Kentucky, they stopping and frisking already. These crazy white folk with this mess.
I have not heard that. I mean, and the people aren't complaining about it. I have not heard that at all. I haven't heard any. I haven't heard any Kentucky politicians promoting it, and I haven't heard any citizens of Kentucky that are white that are complaining about it. So you're telling me they're doing it?
They don't have the soapbox to do so. Like a lot of stuff is happening, but it's not being publicized just yet because that person don't have the clout to actually come out like a boss like you and be out here.
Are you kidding? You're telling me that white people in Kentucky can't get on YouTube? All of these African Americans, when they yelling, hold on, hang on. Black Lives Matter started with people that you're talking about, just a grassroots movement featuring a whole bunch of nobodies. You telling me white people can't do that?
They don't have to. They're white.
You said it. I think you're kind of contradicting yourself. So you're telling me the Democrats don't do anything for black people, but you're admitting getting rid of stop and frisk is doing something for black people.
No. Okay, hear me out. Maybe I'm a little off.
Take your time.
But I'm saying this as far as the administration currently, like what has Biden and Harris done thus far in their administration for African Americans? I'm asking that question. Okay,
well, first of all, his fight in success to some degree of getting rid of college tuition debt affected me personally. I mean, he saved me hundreds of dollars for the time they were fighting over, because the Republicans don't want to forgive that. And I've said this before to my audience, even though I see a lot of legitimate reasons to vote for Trump as well, but at the end of the day, ain't a damn thing Trump can do with the economy that would put as much money in my pocket as forgiving student loans. If Biden is able to continue and expand universal health care and forgive tuition debt, there's nothing Trump could ever do with the economy that would save me that much money per month. And Biden did a lot of that.
I got 55,000 in student.
Okay, so that answers your question about doing something for people of color, not to mention the Affordable Care Act.
Why did you forgive it? I still got my. How'd you get yours done? I still got mine.
Because the Republicans shot it down. That's why you still got it. They fought and won in the Supreme Court, and they gave it back to you. But Biden had forgave that.
But I think that was only for a certain amount of people, right?
You know,
I was trying.
Well,
I looked that up because I was trying to get that.
Well, the point I'm trying to make to you is this: if Biden had his way, you wouldn't have that debt. The Republicans fought with him from day one to make sure you still keep that debt and you pay it back if it takes the rest of your life. That's because the Republicans pushed back on that. The same way with universal health care. It slipshot to a lot of people because there was so much Republican resistance to it. You ask, what have Democrats done for black folks? Those are two big policies that affected a hell of a lot of black people.
True. And I agree with you on that.
And Biden is knee-deep in both of them. Biden is knee-deep in the Affordable Care Act and tuition loan forgiveness. Not to mention, we can talk about the George Floyd bill and a few other things he's done as well. But he's done things for African Americans. It's just a lot of African Americans don't realize it.
I see what you're saying on that. It's just with my stance is just a little bit different.
Your stance is economic. Your stance is economic, and that's understandable. But you mentioned black people, so you took me down a different path. I got to move it on, though, Melvin. Hey, come on back anytime. This is the first time talking?
No, this is the second time. Remember, I was at Penn State last time. I was up there for overseeing the university.
Fair enough.
But hey, can I get one last stop before I go up there?
Make it happen.
All right, so all I'm saying is this. A lot of people, for instance, we're just talking about the Affordable Health Care Act.
Hold on a second. I'm just laughing because I see Red in the comments is not a fan of yours. He says, Melvin, don't come back. Go ahead. Let me hear your statement.
No, but look, with the Affordable Health Care Act, with stop and frisk, of course, I do not support stop and frisk. I don't support law enforcement immunity. I mean, if you do something, it's not a regulation. You should be dealt with accordingly. But all I'm saying is this. A lot of it's a lot of people on this list. I mean, on your live right here. A lot of black people don't deal with certain things that other black people deal with. We're all different. We have different walks of life. Okay, like I live a different life than some black people do. Now, granted, I'm not no multi-millionaire. No, but I am successful in what I do, and so my lifestyle is different. So the things that I care about is schooling. Like we're voting on Amendment 2. To actually push public money to private schools and charter schools. We're talking about that right now. We got a lot of stuff we're dealing with here that may not be the same in other places.
That is
like
true.
We know our police officers here. Like I'm a member.
I'm gonna say this, and just like myself, I don't have a criminal record. Never been arrested for anything. My record is cleaner than most cops. But I will tell you this: even though I've never committed any crimes, if I had immunity, I might be willing to do some shit if I knew I wasn't going to be held accountable for it.
Believe me, bro. Look. I did 9 years in law enforcement. If I had immunity, there would have been a couple people caught one. Okay?
Yeah.
Seriously, I understand that. But all I'm saying is this. To a certain extent, I think, honestly, really research that if he actually has the ability to do that.
It don't really, hold on. It doesn't matter if he had the ability to do it or not. Just like when Beto O'Rourke said, you're damn right, I'm going to take away your AR-15s. Nobody gave a damn whether he had the ability to do it or not. Fact is, he favors giving police immunity from whatever they do. You don't have to have the power to do it. It's in his heart, though. He's making it clear that if it was up to me, they wouldn't be held accountable for what they're doing to you. Whether he can do it or not is meaningless. Just like with the Second Amendment. It doesn't matter if a lot of these liberals that want to take away guns, people know they can't do that. It's in the Constitution. It's protected. But you're not going to vote for somebody that is against the Constitution.
If you know that something is like if somebody's making a false, that's like when Trump's saying, hey, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. If you know it's already false and you know he can't do that without going through the state representatives and the Senate and the House, I'm not worried about that. Yeah. I'm more worried. Again, my number one thing is economics. As long as I can take care of my family, I create my own economy, I'm good. I can manage everything from that point.
All right.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm just seeing more of that opportunity to do so with Trump.
All right, Melvin. Thank you for coming through. And he's not the only one that has that opinion. That is, if he don't believe he can do it, he's going to focus on the things he can. Here's my opinion, real quick, before I go to a few super chats on YouTube. I don't want to ever get into the position where we're saying, literally the most powerful man on the planet, or woman if Kamala Harris wins, the leader of the free world. I don't want to get comfortable saying that, the promise they made while running for office, if they get elected, they won't be able to do that. If you promise to do something and tens of millions of people elect you knowing you made that promise, you got to assume a lot of them believe what you're promising to do is favorable. So if Trump promises to give police immunity or promises to bring back stop and frisk, it's safe to assume a hell of a lot of MAGA agree with that. And if MAGA agrees with it, then that means they are constituents to a hell of a lot of congressmen and senators. And those congressmen and senators who you would think would stop Trump, they owe their job to their constituents. So the idea that a president is promising to do something, you feel confident they never can do it, don't ever get in that position. And this could apply to the liberals as well, if the liberals promising to do what they can't do it. Don't ever, if they're running on it, always assume there is at least a sliver of possibility it can happen. The idea that he's making promises and everybody, I feel confident he'll never be able to do that. No, don't. And by the way, when we're talking about Trump, out of every president we've ever had, I gotta say, if I had a nickel myself personally for all of the shit that I personally thought Trump couldn't do, that he's proven me wrong on, I might be doing financially better off. Trump can do a lot more than people. I'm gonna tell you based on all of my incorrect assumptions about Trump. He can do a lot more than people give him credit for. So if he's promised Roe v. Wade, I see in the comments is a perfect example. Everybody told us, on the left, if Trump gets elected, don't worry, he's not going to roll back Roe v. Wade. That's liberal fear-mongering until it happened. So yeah, that to me is not a good reason to over. Now, my last guest was all about the economy, and that is a good reason, in my opinion, to vote for Trump. Because a lot of people don't believe the Biden administration, the economy is that good. That's just because you want a good economy, in my opinion. I'm not going to skip over everything else. And I do believe giving the police immunity from prosecution or allowing stop and frisk in liberal cities as these states would be a disaster for communities of color, as it has been in the past. All right, Will G, real quick, I wanted to address a couple super chats on YouTube. Thank you for supporting the program. You say if Republicans are willing to go to abortion ban laws in the late 1800s, you can bet they are willing to reverse everything else back to the 1800s. I'm not 100% sure that, because there are a lot of African Americans that support the Trump presidency. So I don't want to automatically assume that Trump or Trump supporters would favor going back to laws from the 1800s, but he is correct. Will G is correct in saying that happened with the abortion ban. The moment they rolled back Roe v. Wade, we know the state of Arizona went back to a law that was, I believe, before the emancipation, before slavery ended. They went back to an abortion law that was from the late 1800s. And I said that before on my program, that because when Trump got elected, people were saying, all these liberals were saying, and if Trump gets elected, they're going to go back to all these old laws, like what Will G is saying. And everybody was saying that's fear-mongering. They're putting out this awful language that if you vote for Trump and Trump gets elected in 2016, he's going to ban abortion, he's going to use laws from the 1800s. That's liberal fear-mongering. Well, it happened. He did get abortion banned in a lot of states, and they did go back to laws from the 1800s. So I just want to say this. I don't feel confident at this point, based on what has taken place, that if Trump gets elected, some other additional laws from that time period can't come forward. I'm hoping they won't. I'm not saying they will, but I no longer feel confident that that is impossible because of what happened with Roe v. Wade. And because there was virtually no resistance from Trump at all. He later came out and said, listen, I believe there should be provisions for rape and incest. But he only said that, in my opinion, after it became really unpopular, rolling back Roe v. Wade. But in the beginning, he wasn't talking like that. Will G says, Republicans really tried and went back and Dred Scott to disqualify Harris, Haley. Yeah, they did do that. That did happen. Bringing up Dred Scott to try to disqualify Kamala Harris. Most of them didn't do it, though. I won't put that on the whole Republican Party, because that is embarrassing that they tried to use Dred Scott, literally tried to use racism to get rid of Kamala Harris. But most Republicans didn't do that. You didn't see the Ron DeSantis types getting involved in that. But there were people who was doing it. Now this is in regards to my last caller talking about the deregulating of waste in the taxes and things like that he faked. My last caller was pretty interesting. We didn't agree on a lot, Melvin, but he was an interesting caller, and he's always welcome back. All about deregulation. They are willing to mess this ozone layer up some more. A lot of truckers I know and love rolling coal, black smoke in the air, no fucks. I don't disagree with that at all. The Republican Party is not a big fan of addressing climate change. In fact, they don't even believe it's real if you ask a lot of them. I think if it comes down to a strong economy or addressing climate change issues, they'll lead the climate change stuff the way it is. Put more money in my pocket. If you got to, frack, if you got to use coal, if you got to have more cities with smog over them like LA, at the end of the day, the money in my pocket is more important than dealing with that. I'll deal with it if you can come up with a way of me also doing well financially, But if I got to sacrifice my finances, then no, the climate can wait. I do believe the right is like that because a lot of that they believe is not even man made. They believe the climate change issues are just cyclical. Every so often on the planet, there's climate change issues and the planet will heal itself. They don't even believe a lot of it's man made. But the right isn't. I mean, you've seen, let's just take former President Trump himself. Every form of alternative energy. And I was going to say other than electric cars because of Elon Musk, but even before Elon Musk endorsed Trump, he was bashing lithium batteries and electric cars pretty heavily as well. But we know what he said about solar panels. We know what he said about windmills causing cancer. I mean, he hasn't been favorable to any form of alternative energy. So you're not going to get a big climate control or, issue. You're not going to get a big climate control agenda out of Trump because most of the stuff they've come up with is alternative sources of energy. He's been very critical of it. And he's not alone. When Obama got in office, remember the whole Solyndra scandal? For you guys that are old enough, where Obama was trying to promote solar panels and provide government subsidies to make the cost of solar panels cheaper. The right was hammering him too, and that was before Trump was really on the scene. So the right is not a big fan of alternative energy sources. And this guy couldn't understand. Dwayne, now my last caller talked about my first caller. Dwayne, that is funny. I'm going to leave that alone. And real quick, before I go back to the box, mind the word disproportionately for stop and frisk. Just because it happens to a few white people doesn't make it all right for black people to feel better about the situation. Yeah, stop and frisk is not happening to a lot of white people. And I will just tell you this, the best chance of you being stopped and frisked wrongfully by law enforcement if you are white is by having black friends. If you're hanging around black people, that shit can rub off on you. It's as simple as that. The best chance of you being wrongfully stopped and frisked by police is hanging around too many damn black people. Just gonna give it to you straight. This is a uncensored program. You can be critical of the host or anybody you want in the comments. I believe in free speech, and that damn sure includes me. But you can, the stuff that goes, a lot of the law enforcement interaction with people of color, if you are not a person of color, if you are white, but you have a lot of black friends, you can have that same stuff happen to you, which is why most of the people that sympathize with the causes of Black Lives Matter, and so they have black friends. A lot of them are telling me, well, it's happening to me because I hang around this person. I mean, it just like you'll find it certainly if you find, let's say, Caucasian women that date black men. You won't find any of them that disagree with it because a lot of times, like I said, it happens to them too. But that's my opinion. You guys have a different opinion. Looking in the comments real quick, incorrect. Mitch McConnell made it all possible. That is true. Mitch McConnell made a lot of successes for Trump possible. And oddly enough, Trump don't give him credit for much of that shit. Trump is not favorable to Mitch McConnell at all. And neither are MAGA. Ed G, nonsense by that logic. You should fear Dems because of their socialist communists. You don't know if they will go full-blown commie. I don't see, when you think about how the nation of Russia is ran, the nation of China, which is also communist China, the way that's country, I don't see all the comparisons to the Democratic Party. I don't see a bunch of gains of the LGBT community in Russia or China. You guys talk about you guys suggest that the Democrats are in favor of late-term abortions. That ain't happening in Russia or China. I don't see the similarities. I think what's going on is you pick one thing that the Democrats are promoting that you think is bullshit, and you tie all of that to communism. There's a whole lot about the Democratic Party, such as diversity. There's not a lot of that in Russia or China. So I don't get that. I don't see the communists. I think if you really look at the Democratic Party and what they promote, and you compare it to Russia or China, you'd realize it's not. The similarities are very, very lacking. Black people are in densely populated areas, so they are easy targets, while the real demon wannabe Jasons, damn, and Leatherface's, God, Will, let me start over, damn. He says black people are in densely populated areas, so they are easy targets, while the real demon wannabe Jasons and Leatherfaces are in rural, less policed areas. I don't agree with that. Here's the deal. I don't think it has anything that, well, it could be a little bit, but I don't think it's really a densely populated issue thing. I think it's simply that African Americans they tend to be poor, and it's easier to, our justice system is set up. It is set up that if you're black, it's not going to treat you the same way. I'm not going to spin that. But also if you're poor, and there's far more poverty in the African American community than anywhere else. I'll leave it at that. All right, let me go back to the box. Thank you folks for letting me answer those super chats real quick. So redlining, yeah, redlining is a real thing. Yo, Tim, when you ready? All right, going back to the box, tap the screen. See if we can get the likes up to about 30,000. It's helped out a little bit. Much lighter audience here. I get we're right in the middle of the second the game of the week. Game of the week. I get my Bears won today, so that's why I'm able to do a live. But I'll go back to the box. Stick the ruler. What is this? Is Venezuela the other party trying to arrest? Hang on 1 second, Stick. You're saying Venezuelan party trying to arrest best opposition, but you're forgetting that Trump promised to arrest Hillary Clinton. You're suggesting that the Democratic Party is like these other countries because they try to arrest their opposition, but you're ignoring Trump going from city to city to city saying that Hillary Clinton should be in jail, and even during the debate saying that she would be in jail. You're giving him a pass on that. Stick, good evening.
Hey, how you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good.
Hey, Twain didn't say it. He wanted to say it, but he didn't say it, man. It's also because it has a lot to do with Trump is white, man. Not just because she's a woman and he's a man, but because she's black and he's white. And as we all know, people from the South and the ones that carry the Confederate flag, the Proud Boys and Boogaloo, all these people are racist.
But wait, I gotta push back on that. Hold on, let me play my devil's advocate. Hold on, hang on. I gotta push back that you're saying that is because Trump is white. Keep in mind when Trump was running against Biden, another old white guy, he was beating the shit out of Biden, and he's actually not doing as well against Kamala Harris. So obviously Kamala Harris is getting more white votes than Biden was. So I don't know if what you're saying totally makes sense, but continue.
Well, I'm saying that for the simple fact, his supporters, the ones that you just say, I just can't figure out why they're voting for this man. For anybody that just don't understand, that's their common denominator. They're white. Just plain and simple. I'm sorry I have to say it like that, but that's what it is.
But Biden was white. Biden is white.
But Biden is white and non-racist.
So it ain't that Trump is white. You saying it's that he's racist.
Well, that he's white and racist.
Because they supported.
Wait.
What is the guy's name? The lieutenant governor in North Carolina that was a black guy.
He said he's a black. Yeah, he said he's a black racist, and nobody supports him.
Yeah. Well, they were.
Ramaswamy was supposed to be Trump 2.0. Nobody supports him. He went on the show. The lady told him because he's Indian, she won't support him. That's racist as hell. Yeah, Ann Coulter
said that. But how do you respond now? Vladstein on YouTube is saying caller is racist. He's saying that you're racist by your rhetoric, and he's saying, what about the 94 crime bill? That comes up often, or vote for me or you ain't black. And you know the African American community overwhelmingly supported Biden. Did Biden get a pass or something?
It's not so much Biden got a pass. It's for those who actually are not so much racist, but understood what he was saying. He was saying that everybody, just like I just said, that's voting for Trump is white. So if you voting for Trump, you ain't black. It's period. Like it's easy to see on the African American, black, whatever you want to call yourself side, that he's not for you. It's too easy to see that. It's too many things that have came out. You know, it's too many things that he can't see but can see because the lights are too bright. You know how it went.
Yeah, but I gotta let me push back from this level. Like my other caller in reference to the guy living in Kentucky was saying, look, every black person doesn't have the same experience. Now he's talking about from an economic standpoint. What if you're African American and you're not really concerned or you're not really experiencing, police misconduct or racism, and the economy is your sole concern? Is that not a reason for a black person to support Trump?
No, because I'm not black. I'm OJ. You remember that?
Explain it though.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
Exactly. He said he's not black. He was OJ, and they still treated him like he was black. So I ain't trying to hear that, man. Money don't mean nothing. Michael Jackson, same thing. You got Bill Cosby, even though he got his stuff too. But once you get to a certain degree, we already know what happens. Certain things happen to you. They just like in politics, everybody has something on everybody.
Yeah.
Regardless. Everybody has something on everybody. So the whole thing of it is now we're dealing with the Confederate 2.0. Everybody's kind of like, have you ever seen that movie Mandingo?
I just recommended that to somebody else the other day. I have not seen it, but I want to see it.
Okay, so this is the reason why I'm bringing this up. Because Trump has talked about these people in Springfield, Ohio, the Haitian migrants.
Yeah.
And it's got everybody believing that this is what's going on. So let me refer to you of the people back then, how they used to think, to the people now. So if Trump can easily say people are eating cats and dogs and sometimes the geese, and then back then, the doctor told the master of the house, hey, if you got any ailments, what you should do is put one of those Negro slaves to the bottom of the bed, and push your feet in, and it'll get all the ailments out.
What the fuck?
These are the people that we're dealing with. Exactly. These are the people that we're dealing with. And in the movie, he had the little boy on the porch with his feet on him. The little boy was laying on his back.
Well, like an ottoman or a footstool?
In his stomach. Yeah, but he was trying to push his bad ailments out of him into the little boy. So again, these are the same people. The same people from the 1800s, pre-slavery. These are the same people. Because they believe the craziest stuff. If Trump says it, they believe it. Wow. It's the same line of reasoning. He said it, so it must be true. He's a billionaire, so what he said got to be true.
Then why? Then I'm gonna ask you what I ask callers all the damn time. Then, and I see in the comments, Ed G said blacks can vote black, but if whites do it, it's great. That's an interesting point. He's saying, because you mentioned Trump being white, he's saying that a black person can vote for another black person and it's okay, but if a white that specifically votes for a white, it's considered racist. I think it kind of has a point.
And then every time a black man that is in the Democratic Party votes for a white man that is in the Democratic Party or is running the head for the president for the Democratic Party, he's on a plantation. So, like, there's no logic with what they're saying. There's no logic because, again, the only reason you look at the Republican Party, you see who's over there. We got Tim Kuhn, and we got your boy down from
wait. Tim Scott, what did you call him again?
Tim Kuhn. His name is Tim Kuhn because he had a love affair just like
oh my God, like Kim Jong-un, like Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, he's Tim Kuhn. He's Tim Kuhn.
Now, normally I would get criticism for letting you repeat that and repeating it myself. But at the end of the day, like I said, we're free speech, and we know Trump has a lot of nicknames we cover on the program too. So Tim Kuhn.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So again, sorry that you have your name, but it's just the whole point, Tim. Like, those guys can vote for Donald Trump. They're not on a slave plantation, right? Let them tell it. But everybody on their plantation is white other than them.
Wow. I don't know where else to go with that. Like I said, at the end of the day, like my last caller said, blacks have different experiences. And I got to say this for Tim Scott, I'm sure his life is a hell of a lot better doing what he's doing than if he voted for blacks. He would. I mean, there are plenty of black politicians. Like, for instance, I'll tell you my own self. I'll give you my personal example. While you're cracking up, I'll give you my own personal example. I tend to be able to speak with a little bit of decency, and I run a free speech program. But I'm not going to deny, if I was hardcore MAGA, I would be doing better. I'd have more viewers, I'd have more followers, I'd have more subscribers. And Tim Scott and Candace Owens, some of them have taken that role. I know for a fact, if I was just simply promoting MAGA, able to speak and debate properly like Candace, I would be doing way better than I'm doing. So Tim Scott probably took that deal.
I mean, this is my thing, Tim. If you want to be the Oprah of TikTok, I mean, you can do what you do. I mean, that's basically she's got the crowd of the world. She does not have just a black crowd. She does not have just a white crowd.
Yeah.
She's got the Latino crowd. She's got the French crowd. It doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
So the whole point I'm trying to make, if she's on the Democratic side and she is Oprah, not the Oprah of TikTok. She is Oprah. Like it makes no sense to that she messes or she deals with multiple and I'm talking about Kamala right now. She deals with multiple races of people, and she doesn't have a problem with doing it. She doesn't have a problem with
well, Trump deals with multiple.
This guy has a problem with loyalty. He feels like it doesn't matter what he does, you just stay loyal to me and go down with the ship. Everybody's going to jail. Everybody's disbarred or losing their law license or on TikTok telling you, I work for this man. Yeah. Like this guy is no good, but we still have these people who assume, just even though he's a big figure, I get it, he's Trump. This is the show, the power of Trump. But the point,
because I'm gonna have to, go ahead. I'll let you wrap it up. I got to move it on, but I'll tell you this: it's because the power of Trump. If you're on a Trump train and it's successful and you endorse Trump, he will reward the hell out of you. But I'll let you go ahead and wrap it up.
And that's all it deals with. If it's successful, if it ain't, you're gonna take all the blame. You're gonna take all the heat.
Yeah.
He ain't gonna pay you. It doesn't matter. He's not
Yeah.
Let's just get that out there, And then let's just say, for instance, it's just one of those things where you got it on paper. You see the tendencies. You see what's going on. Wake up, pay attention, be woke. You might hate it, but be woke. Do not fall asleep on this guy, because he will take your drawers and he will take your daughter's drawers.
Damn. 29 days. I got to move it on. 29 days.
All right.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
You too. Real quick, Zach C on YouTube says, Dems only care about laundering money to other countries and illegals. Wow. Hey, look, there's a lot more to it than that. Now, I get the notion that the Democrats have done a piss poor job securing the border. Oh, excuse me. I can't even necessarily push back on that. I don't think the Democrats have done a good job on the border either. But what do you mean by laundering money? Where is that coming from? Is it Menendez or the governor of New York? You're blaming that on the whole part. What makes you say Democrats are laundering money to other countries? And like I said, by the way, because you said Democrats only care about laundering money in other countries and illegals. I will say in regards to the illegals thing, a large portion of folks that Trump and MAGA consider illegal immigrants are not illegals. So that's another issue. Like the Haitian migrants, for instance. Excuse me, the Haitians in Springfield, MAGA have them chalked up as illegal. They're not here illegally. The asylum seekers, MAGA has them chalked up as illegals because you don't recognize Biden's power as president. If Trump comes in and he deems a certain group to be illegals that were here legally, you'll give him credit. But if Biden does the reverse, you don't accept Biden's power as president. Biden changed some of the laws. And at the end of the day, those folks are not here illegally. Those asylum seekers and the Haitian migrants. And I see in the comments, Arlita says they were invited, and that's true too. Here's something that the Biden administration, in my opinion, has done a piss poor job of. And I think the Trump administration, I know why they're doing it. The point I'm making is this, that the folks in Springfield do admit that those Haitian migrants were invited to work for, is it Amazon or some big company that's in Springfield that those folks are working for? Why hasn't the Biden administration went and found the head of that company who put out the damn invite and put him on TV? Because the right don't believe it. Now, at the end of the day, I know, and this is why I said I believe the Democrats are screwing up on this. I understand why the Trump side is. The Trump side has no interest in going and finding the guy or the company that invited those migrants to work. The Trump side don't want that to come out because they want to portray the picture that they're here illegally. So you're not going to get it from the Trump side. But the Democrats should go find and have them at rallies or have them on television. Next time, get a damn letter or something official so that you can put names to it. Because the right believes that those Haitian migrants are out here illegally stealing jobs, eating pets, and all this other crazy shit. If they were invited to work for that company, then the company should also be being discussed. And you just don't hear that as part of the conversation. That is, in my opinion, is a Democratic failure. They should be pointing that out. Not just saying they were invited here, but no, giving names and showing evidence. Real quick in the comments, Gabriel Reed says, Sticks got sense of Grady from Sanford's son. He's talking about my last caller, suggesting that he has the brains of Grady from Sanford. Sanford's son keeps coming up on the program. Last time it was on Esther. Oh my goodness. Will G, blacks don't want to bring back slavery, Jim Crow, or the KKK. Damn right to that. Black people don't want to bring back slavery, Jim Crow, or the KKK. Let me just ask this, because that's extreme. Will G, you own it today. You own one. By way of yes or no in the comments. Because I know the Kamala Harris campaign is running on this, we're not going back, but it's predominantly women saying it. But by way of yes or no in the comments, how many of you folks believe that the Trump campaign is trying to roll back civil rights for people of color? Because he's talking about bringing back Jim Crow slavery and the KKK. How many folks believe that Trump might be trying to do something like that? That's pretty extreme, but there are people that are saying it. Yeah, wow. TikTok, there are definitely people saying the Democratic Party is the party of slavery and KKK. That's a fact, not the Republicans. Zach, see, that is true, but you're leaving out a lot. Such as, if you're, listen, at the end of the day, and I'm amazed at how many people were saying yes to that. Yes to the belief that Trump is trying to roll back civil rights for people of color. Damn, that's actually scary. That's frightening. Real quickly, in regards to the Democratic Party being the people of color, being the party of slavery and the party of the KKK, it's true, but I think it's pretty obvious a switch has happened. The right don't want to admit it. I get it, but the KKK on all of their uniforms, they're wearing the Confederate flag. You know the Confederate flag is not accepted in Democratic circles. It's favored in Republican circles. So clearly some kind of switch took place. I mean, the Democratic Party was the party of slavery and the party of the Confederate South. But now all of a sudden the Republican Party has decided to defend all the Confederate heroes in the flag. Clearly something happened. Why would you fight against a group of enemies and then all of a sudden your side starts defending all of the statues honoring the people that were trying to kill you? It's clear as day some kind of switch happened. Real quick in the comments, Vladstein, TDF, Trump derangement syndrome makes people defend crazy logic. Dems equal Jim Crow. And he's kind of following along with what I was just talking about on the switch. To me, just the Confederate flag itself is probably the strongest example that a switch took place. That the right is so favorable to the Confederate flag. when the Democrats were the party of the Confederate South. That has to be explained. Why would the right all of a sudden adopt this symbol and be so favorable to it if no switch happened? They just decided at the end of, let's go. I mean, because there's a lot of reasons to honor and cherish the South. You don't have to pick that one symbol. Twain the Square, TRP watch price is TRP. I don't get what you're saying there. Is that Trump watch price? Oh, Trump's watches. You're saying the price of Trump's watches are so oligarchs can support him from other countries. So oligarchs are buying those watches. You know, I don't know if there's any validity to that or not, but I do know about the Bibles in Oklahoma that are also designed to fit within the parameters of Trump Bibles. That could be a way to funnel money to former President Trump through that merchandise. I mean, because all of his merchandise is priced pretty damn high. The shoes, the Bibles, the NFTs, there's nothing cheap. I mean, and Trump has a website. What is it? Get Trump Sneaker. If you go to gettrumpsneakers.com, it gives you access. He's selling a lot more than sneakers, but gettrumpsneakers.com will give you access to his website. There's a lot of merchandise. None of that stuff is priced cheap. None of it is. So if he did want to funnel money, that is a really good way to do it. That is a really good way because anybody can buy that stuff. Real quick, continuing on, Will G in the comments says, Zach C, under what party did the Confederate flag get into the Yeah, that's a great question. Under what party? I'll go to the box. And by the way, tap the screen on TikTok. We might be to get up to 50,000. If some of you folks let your thumbs and not be lazy, support the program, tap the screen, get the likes up. As I always say, we don't block, ban, or censor anyone. This is an open forum. We are MAGA friendly. Always has been, always will be. Nevertheless, liberals are welcome on the program as well. You can be critical of anyone in the comments. You can be critical of the host. That's how free speech works. By the way, if you enjoy that type of dialogue, open dialogue, without concern of the host trying to block, ban, or censor you, follow the program on TikTok, a subscription on YouTube, if you will. You'll find us Monday through Friday, but considering election day is only 29 days away, we'll probably be on most days. So subscribe to the program on YouTube or follow the program on TikTok. Zach C says, under what party did the Confederate battle flag get into the U.S. Capitol on January 6th? First time ever since the Civil War. And what party wants a Civil War, period? I'll wait. That's a mic drop. That is a mic drop. Because when you say the Democratic Party is the party of slavery and all, the Republican Party is waving around and speaking all of the stuff from that era to existence. We can talk about why, but that's where it's coming from. You don't see the left promoting Civil War or the symbols from it. It is the right. It is the right. And I see in the comments, Love Fest says, huge mic drop. Trump sung the bill himself, not to company. What do you mean? Trump, this is the main scoop. Trump sung the bill. I'm assuming you said sign the bill himself, not to company. I don't quite get what you're saying there. I would love to understand, but I don't. Ed G, going down with the ship. Weren't Democrat G and A allowed to sink? Okay, you got a lot of this abbreviation. I don't get what you mean there. Going down with the ship, you're questioning that. Weren't the Democrat G and A allowed to sink by allowing Biden to run? Okay, you're right about that. Now he's saying the notion that Republican supporters are going down with the ship with President Trump. He makes a good point in saying that the Democrats are going to ride with Biden knowing he was not fit for office. And we can say Biden is fit, whatever, but most Democrats did not feel Biden is fit to serve another 4 years, and they were going to ride with him. So he makes a good point that you can't fault Republicans riding with Trump on things that may not be right when the Democrats are riding with Biden. And that was the slogan, riding with Biden. I'm riding with, I think that was a campaign slogan. And they were up to it, including Kamala Harris. She was speaking favorably of Biden doing another 4 years just a few months ago. So I got to give you credit for that, Ed G. That is true. Last guy is okay with black racism, but not white. I think that goes both ways, and I'd have to see you give specific comments on that, but that does go both ways. Will G says Ted Cruz and Ryan Paul are the main ones talking about rolling back affirmative action and anything that benefits people of color. Ted Cruz might lose, by the way. I think Ted Cruz is losing. But yeah, MAGA, I will say this. I'm not we can talk about racism and whoever, black racist or white racist, whatever the case may be, but MAGA is definitely no fan of affirmative action. And what is the other one? Well, there's DEI. But MAGA is no fan of that. So when you're talking about rolling back affirmative action, I don't think you'd get anything but applause from MAGA if you can roll that back. There was a lot of people in America that never wanted it to begin with. So you certainly would not get any resistance of rolling back Roe versus Wade. Affirmative action from MAGA. Maisha, good evening. Welcome to the program. I would love to see Ted Cruz lose. I believe Ted Cruz is losing in the polls. It's an African American, I think, is down there that's beating him. Michael, good evening.
What's going on, Tim?
I'm in the trenches, man. I'm in the trenches. The whole program originally was about, is there a healthy fear of Trump on the Republican side of the aisle? Because you got a bunch of folks recently that have been asked, would they admit that Biden won the 2020 election? J.D. Vance, I actually got the clips. I won't play them right now, but J.D. Vance, Mike Johnson, Lewandowski, none of them will admit that Biden won. Why is that?
Well, we've been talking about this for weeks, so you know I'm about to go. The reason that they don't want to admit it, because if they come out, look, it's all tied to January 6th to begin with. It's all tied to the indictments, all that bullshit they were doing to begin with. They got to ride with it now, Tim. I told you that a while ago, but see, I've read the indictment. I've read all the depositions. They have to stay with it because if they come off of it, they have more legal challenges ahead of them. They got to stay with it. It's all bullshit, but they got to stay with it.
So they can't, without putting themselves in legal jeopardy, they can't come out and say Trump was right. He won the 2020 election.
Well, not just the legal jeopardy, but they also have the political jeopardy because they want to stay in power and be where they are. But look, and that's just a fact. Anybody in here all you got to do is just go fucking read a little bit, just a little bit. But what you were talking about earlier with Melvin, that bothers me more than anything. Because if you're black and brown in this country, and you can even remotely consider voting against your best interests, it's just insane to me. And when people challenge me on that, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Now, you're telling me that if you're black or brown and you vote for Trump, you're voting against your best interest guaranteed?
100%.
So
100%.
you think Tim Scott, if he vote for Trump, he's voting against his best interest? You know how much money his family will make? I mean, he'll be far wealthier and live a far better life voting for Trump than against him.
Even at the detriment of black and brown folks. That is voting against your own interest when I talk about us as a culture.
Okay, now you're talking about that. Okay, so now you're talking about as a culture, because I'm talking about most people don't vote for their culture, they vote for their own individuality. And for Tim Scott's individuality, it makes a lot more sense to vote for Trump than a liberal.
Well, it doesn't, because see, here's the thing with Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, all that coonery and buffoonery, right? Every last one of us knows neither one of them, Vivek, none of them were going to ever be nominated for vice president, ever.
Yeah, but Tim Scott does have a successful career. I mean, he may be senator again. I mean, he may be governor. He's going places as long as he keeps supporting Trump.
I told you before, there's a Steven from Django in every pot, but that's not worth it for me. That's not worth it for me, because at the end of the day, you could be sitting high on the hog while you're watching your people lose their rights, while you're watching this immunity, total immunity, and you're watching stop and frisk. And if anybody's paying attention, stop and frisk, total immunity in democratic states. What the hell does that mean? See, we got to stop playing. Yeah. We got to stop playing these games. What does that mean? Everybody wants to dance around this shit. What it means is, and here's the thing, Trump is like that with everybody.
All right, wait, but let me make something clear before you go into your spiel. I've covered stop and frisk and Trump promising to give immunity on the program plenty of times, because I used to play the clip of him saying it. And that's the first thing I said when he started talking about he wants to work with liberal mayors and liberal governors to bring down crime and he wants to give police immunity in those areas. That's people of color. So I brought that up plenty of times, that he's talking about giving the cops, specifically the ones that are dealing with people of color, the right to stop and frisk and giving them immunity from prosecution. And now he's talking about if the police were given the ability to have a violent hour, crime would go down. Like, in other words, if they can catch a criminal and they were allowed to be violent. I mean, he's also said that.
Right. Well, and again, and so you gotta take him at it. But here's the thing: not only take him at his word, because he is a compulsive liar, but also the people that he associates himself with. It's just funny to me. Melvin is worried about his individual pockets. Melvin, you don't have no uncles, you don't have no sons, you don't have no nephews, you don't have no friends, you don't have nobody of color that may not be doing as well as you. And by the way, Mr. Melvin, just because you got it, that doesn't mean that the person who pulls you over gives a shit. Because the one thing that the far right, those whites, the worst thing they can hate is a black or minority person doing well, Mr. Melvin. So you want to run through one of those sundown places in your nice Benz and doing all that shit, guess what? You probably going to be first. Oh. So we cannot vote against our own best interest or self-interest because it's convenient for me as an individual.
You know what you said? I have a real quick personal story of myself to bring up on that. Growing up on the south side of Chicago in the late 70s, now my dad came out of Vietnam, GI Bill, and he, bought a home, got married to my mom, and we lived on the far south side of Chicago in the early 70s, and we were like the second black family on our block. And I remember my dad bought I think it was a Mark IV, a Lincoln Mark IV. It was a two-door sedan. It was all white. It was a fancy car at that time. And because he had he worked for Illinois Bell. He was a union job. For an African American, we were probably like almost middle class. We certainly were middle class. And he used to keep his hard hat because he was a telephone lineman for Illinois Bell. He used to keep his hard hat in the front window of the car, even when he's not working or we're going out to eat dinner. And he told me as a young child, I keep that in my window so that the police will know we got a job. Because of what you're talking about. They did, having a fancy car. I mean, because it was in that era. I do remember that. And I probably was maybe 5, 6 years old. And he said that we got to keep this in the window to let them know we got a job as a reason to own his car. Otherwise, they'll be messing with him.
Absolutely. So when I hear people trying to tell us that our struggle as minorities in this country is not real or it's over or that was the past, that tells me that they, in their personal life, they have no diversity whatsoever because they're not here. That tells me that because if you did, you've heard this before. And again, when I hear the Melvins of the world, I'm like, I don't know yet. We don't all have the same experience, but we all have the same color, and we can't understand what someone else is going through. I don't have to be Hispanic.
Yeah, I hear your point, but like I said, when people vote, they tend to vote based on individuality. If Trump is making somebody finance it significantly better, they're going to overlook the stuff you're talking about, even if it is in the best interest of their neighbor. If Tim Scott ain't dealing with racism, he's not dealing with police issues, he's just making money and getting promoted in Washington, he going to vote based on that. He's not going to vote. And by the way, I kind of question how many black friends does Tim Scott have anyway?
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. At the end of the day, when we talk about, like, I don't need to be, I'm not worried about being deported, but I think it's a problem. I'm not worried about having a child, but I am worried about women's rights. And that's the problem, is that we're so in these silos where we only give a shit about what happens to us directly until it happens to us directly, right? I mean, that's how everything starts. When it starts to impact you directly, then you get involved. We need to get involved before this because what we're talking about right now is not good. And if we don't listen, everybody ends up caring when it happens to them.
True.
Right? Everybody ends up caring when it. And when we keep waiting, I'm not going to listen, Tim. I'm not going to be standing next to you. That's why I tell you, don't you get your ass in the car with a Julio and Gen X. I don't want to be pulling up to you going.
You know how many callers Boomers, because Gen X and Julio both are MAGA, and like I said, I consider them as friends of the program, and they've invited me to dinner. You know how many folks just like you have told me to stay the hell away from them?
Okay, well, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get off your line. When I see MAGA, it's like anything else. If I drive past your house and you have a flag in front of you, you brought the Confederate flag earlier, right?
Yeah.
If somebody driving down the street with the Confederate flag, it tells me that you support that cause in its entirety. Because you're waving this flag, you're allowing it to represent who you are. If you had a swastika on your chest, what would it say to me, Tim?
Yeah.
What would it say to me? You understand what I'm saying?
I get your point.
At the end of the day, you represent what you promote. What you promote, you permit. What you permit, you promote. I don't even know why it's that complicated. So if people don't think that what we're saying is true, but they want to support it, and you just look at the agenda, you look at the overall overwhelming far right support for him, and they can't be for me. It's simple. They can't have the same. We don't have the same goals. We just don't have the same goals.
All right, I got to move it on, Michael. 29 days. I think we know where you're going with it. Appreciate you coming through.
Get your shit together, Melvin.
All right, moving on with the program. Melvin got a little bit of attention there. Tim, you're going to lose your card. People can't see your red in the back. What do you mean? People, I'm going to lose my card. What do you get? My hood card? Say, people, you're going to lose your card. People can't see your red in the back. Now, you can see it. Are you talking about my MAGA hat? I got MAGA hats everywhere. I've donated a lot of money to the Trump campaign. I got Trump is right hats around here everywhere. What's wrong with that? You can see my MAGA hat in the background. I mean, you don't even, do you need to see the damn hat when the sign says Trump country on the screen? Okay, going back to the box. But real quick, let me continue on with the program. What he is saying is when they came for the Jews, Asians, blacks, folks, women's rights, I didn't say anything. Okay, you guys are talking in the comments yourselves. No one ever said life was supposed to be fair. That is true, Paul, but if life is unfair, nobody said you should ignore it either. Fight for fairness as much as you can. Will G says, just because you don't see Trump at KKK rallies does not mean he is not in the back rooms talking with affiliates. Wow, you really think Trump is for it? You think Trump might be at a KKK gathering? Talking with affiliates? But wow, I don't want to put him in that category. I mean, there's a lot of black people. Judge Joe Brown. I mentioned Tim Scott several times. Diamond and Silk, the Hodge twins, Officer Tatum, Candace. There's a lot of black people that like Trump. You think Trump is in the back of a KKK rally? That's pretty heavy. Now, you said his granddad was there. Okay, Twain, I'm not going to fault Trump for what his granddad did because I believe Kamala Harris, her family has ties to slavery, being slave owners. I'm not going to fault Trump for what his granddad did. I wouldn't want anybody to be faulted for what their grandfather did. I mean, it is what it is. What about the Democrats? Y'all don't mind. They are part of a cult. I don't see that, Gene. And by the way, shout out to you, Gene. I always give a shout out to my female MAGA because we don't get a lot of female. Everybody's saying the females are going to go liberal, but there are plenty of females that go right. So shout out to you, Gene. But the Democrats part of a cult behind who? That doesn't make sense. If you want to give out a criticism to Democrats, there are plenty of ones that I can entertain and I might see some validity in. But the idea that the Democrats are part of a cult doesn't make sense because the Democrats, when you look at Biden's favorable numbers, the Democrats are not big fans of Biden. They were going to sit it out and all. The Democrats are a cult behind who? To be a cult, you got to have a leader. I don't see that. I don't see that at all. Even you got plenty of African-American Democrats that even criticized Obama. So I don't see the Democrats doing anything that's cult-like. I do see them, as one of my I think it was Ed pointed in the comments, them following behind, putting Biden in there and lying about his cognitive abilities or souping it up. I see that, but I don't see the cult part of a Democratic Party. Such as Trump, in my opinion, here's where the cult thing comes in. I do believe Trump, unlike the Democratic Party, can say a lot more things that are really wild and heavily controversial with no evidence, and the right will believe it. I think the Democrats would challenge a leader saying that, such as eating cats and dogs, for instance. The right was okay with that the minute he said it. They just believed it. I mean, even to this day, I don't believe most Republicans have seen any evidence of that. I mean, I got hundreds of folks that watch me daily, and I've been begging for evidence. I haven't seen any evidence. Nobody sent me any evidence of that. Yet there's a lot of folks on the right that believe Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating pets. Will G says, will Biden? Well, Biden went to the KKK leader's funeral. Zach, see, that is true. You're talking about Senator Byrd. Both Obama and Jesse Jackson were at that funeral as well. What you guys leave out with the Senator Byrd and Biden's connection is that Senator Byrd, I think he died in 2010. He actually cleaned up his image with the black community, was favorable with the NAACP and all of that. That gets left out. You bring up that he was a KKK member, and you stop it at that. But if you look at the last 10 years of Senator Byrd's life, that needs to be discussed because he was in favorable standing with black civil rights groups. He turned his life around, which is why, as I stated, I think Obama or Jesse Jackson eulogized him at his funeral. They were there in the front row. Trump and black people is all smoke and mirrors. Oh, Trump with black people. You're saying Trump with black people is all smoke and mirrors. He is an entertainer. I think politicians in general that are with black people to some degree are smoke and mirrors. But I get your point. I get your point. And I've been to 2 Trump rallies, by the way. I have been to 2 Trump rallies. They treated me very nice. I've been to 2. He was reformed and apologized for his actions, says facts only. Yeah, that's Senator Byrd. Meg says, I actually think the governor of Ohio need investigated for trafficking Haitians he has directed. Well, before I go back to the box and tap the screen on TikTok, get us up to about 50,000. Smash that like button on YouTube. Feel free to follow the program. Subscribe on YouTube. We're here Monday through Friday. I don't think you can blame the governor of Ohio for trafficking migrants without finding out if their claims that a company asked for those people to come because they couldn't find anybody to hire is true. That needs to be investigated. And then, of course, we need to investigate the process on how those Haitian migrants got into the country. Is there paperwork? Were they vetted or were they flown in the middle of the night? Did they come by raft? All of that needs to be looked into. But I will say this. In my opinion, the Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio are getting a bum rap. There's no serious increase in crime in that town. They're complaining about pets. There's no professionals in that town that's validating that. When I say professionals, I mean you don't hear it coming from the police chief. You're not hearing it coming from the mayor. You're not hearing about the ASPCA or some animal rights groups. No one is validating that other than some average citizens that probably just don't like Haitian migrants. But no one with an actual career to put on the line is saying, yeah, that's actually happening here. So same thing with the crime. Even when you see most of them being interviewed, most of it is the pet stuff, and they're causing accidents in town because they're not used to driving cars and they're giving them driver's licenses too damn fast. That I believe is true. I do believe the accident part. But the pets and the crime, those folks are working. They're working. Not only are they working, they are also getting some sort of welfare until they get a job. They don't need to commit crimes. Now, the Venezuelans and some of them other folks in New York, that might be a different conversation, but them Haitian migrants in Springfield, I don't believe they're committing a lot of crimes. Because the people, even the citizens of the town is not really complaining about that. Why does Trump make up random lies on a regular basis? Politicians do that because it is advantageous to them politically. I think Trump does it a little bit more, but they do it for political advantage. Let's try this again with Maisha. Angie says, be consistent. You can't say some Mexican natives. Wait a minute. Be consistent. You can't say, is that Mexicans or natives? Get over it. You lost your land because you were weak. Then cry reparations. Say, get over it. We're too weak to fight off slavery. Wow. So you're saying because the white colonizers, and you are correct, they did dominate and defeat the Native Americans, a large portion of the Mexican territory down south was taken. You said because they were weak and they lost, they need to get over it. Wow, that's true though. It's kind of harsh and unsympathetic, but it is true. You're saying, get over it because you lost your land, you were weak, and then cry reparations. I will tell you this: a lot of the Native Americans, the Mexicans, I don't necessarily agree totally that they were weak. Now, once it came down to an actual battle against the colonizers did win. But there's more to it than they were just weak and outgunned. The colonizers told a lot of lies. The Native Americans and the Mexicans were dealing with an enemy that was posing as a friend. So let's be clear about that. It's one thing for somebody to kick your ass. It's another thing to be sucker punched. They were not letting on what they intended to do. And by the way, Christopher Columbus has in his diary, I believe I read, that when they arrived here, you exchange trinkets when you meet people from the new land, and they received, I think, some buffalo hide and things like that. Coming to a new land that's cold, the Native Americans gave Christopher Columbus and his crew different items of value, and Christopher Columbus gave the Native American tribe leader a sword. And the tribe leader, I suppose, rubbed his hand on the blade and cut his hand. And later that evening, Christopher Columbus put in his diary and sent back to the king or whatever, back to the homeland in England, how 50 armed men could take over the land. And he talks about they're ignorant. I handed him a sword and he doesn't even know what it is. They were already considering conquering the Native Americans from the moment they met him. Like, this guy's so dumb he don't even know what a sword is. He doesn't even know what a weapon is. Cut his hand on the blade. So he sent home messages in his diary talking about, with 50 armed men, I think we could probably take this place over. They were already thinking about it. So I do agree with the weak part, but to some degree, everybody ain't thinking about being conquered. I just think a lot of nations wanted to live and exist as is. They weren't trying to go and conquer other lands. That was something that was more prevalent among European communities, going around the world conquering other people. And it wasn't just conquering, it was raping and pillaging and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, in the comments, Will G says, Trump says good people on both sides. Who else would be talking about? Who else would he be talking about other than white Confederates, KKK, Nazi sympathizers? There is nothing to argue. Well, the pushback is going to be that, you're talking about Charlottesville. The pushback is going to be that not everyone showing up in Charlottesville defending that statue from coming down was a Confederate, KKK, or Nazi sympathizer. Now, I guess they were Confederate sympathizers. Anybody defending a Confederate statue, yeah, they're a Confederate sympathizer, but the Nazi part, some would say you're adding that on. And I will say this, in regards to the statues, one of the biggest pushbacks, before I go back to the box, one of the biggest pushbacks is the suggestion that by taking down statues, you're erasing history. I could not disagree with that anymore if I tried. Fact is, when you see Confederate statues, they all have a plaque. They have a plaque down at the base of the statue that tells you about the individual you're looking at. None of those plaques talk about the atrocities that individual represented, committed, or was fighting for. But that is history. That is the history. That is the history of the Confederate Army. That is the history of it. None of that is there. So the idea that taking down a Confederate statue erases history, the history ain't even accurate. The history, that's why the Confederate statues were allowed to stand for so damn long, is because nobody truly knew what those folks represented. I mean, and not to mention, I could also bring up that most of those Confederate statues were put up during the height of the Civil Rights Movement, some 100+ years after the Civil War. They weren't put up to commemorate the actual individual in the statue. They would put those statues up in town square to let civil rights groups, to let them know what you guys are promoting. Don't come here with that bullshit. Let's say, for instance, there's a union strike in some rural Alabama town, or the African American workers feel like they're being discriminated against or mistreated, and they've convinced civil rights workers like the Martin Luther Kings or whatever to come to that town and protest. They would put up one of those statues in the town square as a message to let civil rights fighters know, you come to this town, it's going to be hell for you. Don't bring that bullshit here. That's what that, if you look at a lot of those statues, they were erected in the 1920s to 1940s period. Now, you don't normally put up war statues that far away from the war. Point I'm trying to make is World War II ended in 1945, I believe, 1945, 1946. You're not going to see people putting up World War II statues in 2046. They just don't do that. All of those are up now. Whatever you're going to do to commemorate World War II, it's for the most part over with. They're not going to keep building new statues of Patton and Eisenhower. That's not going to be happening. They put those statues up over 100 years after the war. They weren't put up to commemorate the people on the statue. They were put up as a message. And you can pretty much look and figure out when those statues were erected. And you'll notice that most of this stuff came up way after the Civil War was over with. It was put up during the height of the Civil Rights era. Looking in the comments, which is also another reason to suggest that whole movement, some might say, is anti-black. Real quick in the comments, want to address a super chat. Zach C says, Kamala ain't black. She's Indian and Caucasian. There's no such thing, Zach C. I've said this before in the program, and I'll go back to the box shortly. I want to address the super chat, but I have said this before, that if you are born in America, you can only be one of five things. If you are born on American soil, for folks who are saying that Kamala Harris is Indian, Jamaican, or whatever, if you are born on American soil, you can be one of five things. You are either white, black, Hispanic, Native American, or Asian. That's it. You don't, if your parents were born in Germany, let's say your parents are German, but they come here on vacation and they give birth to you in Miami somewhere and they decide to continue living in America. You're not German. You were born in Miami. You're an American. You are a white American. Nobody goes by the country of origin that their parents are from. Does Kamala Harris even have residency or in Jamaica? Does she even speak the language of India? She's black. I can assure you, if she was wanted for a crime and there was a wanted poster up, it would not say Indian and Jamaican on it. It would say, we're looking for a black woman. They would have her height and her picture, and it would say, we're looking for a black woman. I don't know why all of a sudden she runs for president and suddenly her parents' nation of origin is... Look, other than the effort to otherize her, that doesn't make any sense. She is a black woman. That's it. Like I said, she's running down the alley and the cops are chasing her. They're going to say, we're chasing a 5-foot-some-odd black woman. They're not going to radio in there chasing a Jamaican/Indian. It doesn't happen. But it's a nice try to otherize her, I suppose. You said many times before, they need to get over it. Edgy, what do you mean by get over it? What in reference to what did I say that? Going back to the box, we'll start it out. Box is a little bit problematic today. Den Cal, good evening. T-Dum is an Oompa Loompa. T-Dum, I'm assuming, is that me? He's on Trump. He's an Oompa Loompa. He's not white, he's orange. All right. God. Den Cal, help me cut through the foolishness, man. So, go ahead.
I didn't hear the topic, but go ahead.
The topic is there a healthy fear of former President Trump among Republicans? You got several folks been asked recently, up to and including today, did Biden legitimately win the 2020 election? And everybody from J.D. Vance, they won't answer it. I got Mike Lewandowski on television this morning, Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson. Nobody will answer that question. Why is that?
Well, I disagree with the part about Republicans being scared because all of the real Republicans are saying he lost. It's the politicians on the right who are scared to say something for fear of losing their position.
I don't know. I get a lot of Republicans that say he won. I don't know about that. I get a lot of them.
Those are MAGA Republicans.
Oh, it's gonna be MAGA Republican. You're not gonna get a Nikki Haley
That's what I'm
supporter.
saying. Like traditional Republicans they not disputing it. Like, and there's a bunch of them in Congress and stuff. They don't dispute it. And you ask them if you ask them in the public in an interview, they'll say he lost.
Yeah.
But you got a direct few who are tied to him, like Mike Johnson, like J.D. Vance, who they have to say that.
But why? You telling me J.D. Vance is not given the ability to be a free speaker? He has to say what Trump believes.
Is that a serious? That's rhetorical.
Yeah. I don't want it to be rhetorical. I want to know that if you are part of the Trump administration, you are free to speak.
Look, this man then changed from a devout Christian. Well, he claimed he was a hillbilly back in the day when he was really a heart like an Ivy League educated guy who turned venture capitalist and made a ton of money, and then he switched into politics and not even he spent 2 years in politics and now he's a vice presidential candidate. And if you go back and look at his past, he was a never Trumper. He called him the American Hitler. He talked about his race. He talked about everything. And now you could not get him to mention anything he used to say. He's even backed off of his abortion stance. J.D. Vance was for no rules, for no exceptions, and everything.
Wow. Well, yeah, I'm sure Trump and the Republican Party got to him and told him that heavy heart.
No, not the Republican Party. It's an audience of one that he's performing for.
So you do believe Trump has a hell of a lot of power?
Oh yeah, I mean, he's Jim Jones status.
Damn. What happens if he becomes?
I really do believe if he got on national TV and told everybody, look, we need to drink the poisonous Kool-Aid, it'd be a whole bunch of people around this country.
You believe that MAGA would be willing to sacrifice their life for Trump?
Yes, for sure. They really believe what he's selling. I mean, he's almost a deity to them.
So then I have to ask I got to ask the obvious question. Now, I understand people favor the Trump economy in wars. We always go through that spiel, but what is he selling that is so significant, so great, that it would be worth putting your life on the line? What do they believe he's selling?
Because it's almost like a religious type thing, because they don't have anything tangible that they can get from it, but they believe that he is the answer to all of their questions, all of their problems. I mean, if you think about it, the Republican Party or the conservatives were always the party of, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's not about what you can do, what the country could do for you, what you can do for the country, patriotism, and all of that means nothing if it doesn't include Trump. They say he gonna fix the economy, he gonna fix the world, he gonna fix other countries.
He gonna fix the world, damn. but let me read this one to you. Go ahead. Now I want to read this to you because I'm hoping this ain't something he's selling. Will G on YouTube has really been on a tangent. He says that again, MAGA, with a figment of imagination, he says if Trump is not talking about literal white supremacists, he is talking about sympathizers. What the fuck do you think a sympathizer is? Do you think that Trump is selling white supremacy at all?
Yes, I mean, I don't know any particularly myself, but I would ask the people in your audience, if you do happen to know some people that might be in the Klan or one of these radical militia groups, ask them. They are on his, like, he's speaking to them. Those people that went to jail for him were saying that he was directly talking to them. That's what they really believe.
And yet Trump is doing fairly well with black males. Are they just not able to see what you're seeing?
Well, I hate to be like that, about my fellow brothers out there. But a lot of them people are very uneducated, and a lot of them really believe that somehow he was personally responsible for the stimulus and them PPP checks. They really believe that he himself somehow, when they don't understand that he was the one who fought against them. Nancy Pelosi was the ones who had to force it through because they ended up having a veto. They had the filibuster, the veto-proof majority. That's the only reason why them checks came out.
No. And I see in the comments, Gen X says, "Don't say Proud Boys, motherfucker." You didn't say Proud Boys, did you?
No, I didn't mention. We was talking about why black men.
Okay. Yeah, we were. But that's what I'm saying. If you and some of my other callers who seem to think that African Americans voting for Trump are voting against their own best interest, it has to be explained because there is a large amount of black males in particular that are voting for Trump. I mean, there are plenty of Hispanics that are voting for him too. So are you sure what you're saying is accurate? Because they don't see this.
Right. One more thing. It's not a singular thing, but one more thing is a lot of these young black men are having a hard time with their decrease in power. Like the patriarchy is losing its power. When you're talking about a black woman leading the country, and a lot of people, whether they consciously or unconsciously thinking about it, they can't stomach a woman being in charge. Not in their home, not in their lives, not at their job, and definitely not leading the country. Somebody that they have to follow.
How about the notion that a lot of black males, particularly alpha males, are attracted to Trump because he's viewed as a powerful, dominant alpha male, and the Democratic Party has been viewed by many as emasculating black men, or men in general, not just black men. But we're talking about putting a female in leadership, but the Democratic Party is favorable to feminists and the Me Too movement, favorable to the LGBT community. A lot of this stuff is totally the antithesis of the alpha male, and a lot of men feel like they're losing their rank.
I would say that anybody who considers themselves an alpha male does not have to follow anybody's lead. And to think that they call themselves an alpha, but they need somebody to follow, they're not alpha, they're betas. They fancy themselves as alphas.
Well, they're not in it to follow Trump. They believe that Trump has a better direction for alpha males. He will let alpha males exist. He will let men be men, where you're not hearing about this toxic masculinity and all this.
Alpha males don't need to be allowed to do anything. I'm a male. I'm confident in myself. I'm confident in my position in my home. Even if my wife takes the lead on something, that doesn't diminish what I do. I'm still the patriarch of my family. Just because my mayor is a woman doesn't take anything away from me. Just because my governor is a woman takes nothing from me. A president, a foreign minister, a secretary of state, none of that has anything to do with being an alpha male. That is an excuse to be a follower. That is a beta.
All right.
Wanting to belong.
I get it. Well, like I said, I'm just simply saying a lot of men feel like, because I give you a perfect example. Some men will suggest it's difficult nowadays to even court a female, because if you're touching this Me Too movement and all of this stuff where men can't be men the way they used to be.
Not true. The problem is and you around the same age, we were born, unfortunately, we were born in what we call, and I hate to say it, but a great culture. We were overly aggressive. Yeah. We were doing things that we should not have been doing. The whole Me Too movement came up and exposed it. And instead of us admitting it and moving on and being better, we want to fight against it, saying we just want to be men again. What does that mean? What does that mean? We want to be men again. You want to take advantage of people still without consequences? You want to be able to go into court and let them see that, look, hey, I'm a husband. I can't abuse her. That's what they still got some of those rules.
Yeah, it's dominant. Men want to remain dominant. That's what it is.
You could beat your wife on the court steps every other Sunday. It's still rules like that on certain books in some cities. Like, what does that mean? I want to be a man again. I am a man in everything that I do, and nobody can take that away from me, and nobody's going to make me feel like more of a man or less of a man because they get a political position. That's garbage.
All right, well said. All right, then, Cal, I will move it on.
Hey, one more
Go ahead.
One more thing I wanted to
Go
add
ahead.
was that...
and by the way, somebody in the comments, before you do that, in the comments, Rottweiler said Arkansas has that law. That you're allowed to beat a woman? That's an actual law?
Right, yeah. That's why I said it. I didn't know what state. Those things are still on the books. And when you say let us be what we were, like what were we exactly? What we were allowed to do things like Trump was saying in his locker room talk? Should we be able to do that again?
I didn't know it was.
What I wanted to say though is that Trump, in his speeches, he's still talking about changing those bases back to the Confederate names. It was a big deal.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Fort Bragg and all that stuff.
Yeah, they just changed the one near me, which used to be Fort Gordon, but now it's Fort Eisenhower. And now he's telling these constituents, who is he talking to when he says this? When you was talking about the guy was saying he's talking to white supremacists, and that's what we talking to. He's not talking to me or you. We can give a care less about.
I can't. I normally like to be able to push back and see the other side of things, but once the base has been changed away from these Confederate folks and folks who have ties to oppression and racism and slavery, fighting to change it back to them, you're speaking to a particular audience. That to me, I can't even push back on that.
Right. Well, so you could probably ask some of your MAGA guests, say who is he appealing to when he does that? Yeah. But I ain't trying to run your show. I just wanted to run that by you.
I didn't know that. Every time I talk to you, I walk away saying I did not know that. You definitely opened my eyes on a lot of shit, then, Cal.
And I got a whole list of things right here, but I don't know. I only got a certain amount of time with you.
Real quick, how you doing? Real quick, how you doing down there? You were in the path of Helene.
Oh yeah, I mean we good. We got the power back. Everything is back except for my satellite TV, which I got internet access, so I can access Hulu.
Right.
Netflix.
Now,
so we got everything back. I got my generator and stuff.
Are you at risk? Because there's another one on the way that's going to hit Florida by Wednesday. Are you you guys aren't at risk for that one, are you?
No, we're far enough in. And like we were surprised because normally when hurricanes hit, usually within the first 50 to 100 miles, the wind it goes from a hurricane down to a tropical storm down to
to a depression, and
we didn't get the amount of water, but the wind we got all the way up here. I'm about 2 hours east of Atlanta, which was unexpected. But this one that's coming now, it looks like it's going straight towards Florida and not up into the United States, but
just across, just right on across Florida.
Right. So we might catch a little rain from that. Look, I don't even want to predict now because what we thought. And it's a shame. It's a shame that all of the people are running around, discussing this stuff about FEMA's not doing nothing while the governors are.
Trump is saying they're only helping out Democrats, and they gave the money to illegal immigrants. He really he politicized the hell out of that tragedy, which to me I think that should cross the line. But you know how it works. All right, then, Cal. Appreciate you coming in. Hey, and I see a couple folks in the comments are saying, "I'm in Florida. We bracing for it. Looks like it's going to hit us directly, man." Were you in Tampa, Naples, Fort Myers, somewhere? Because that's where the horn. Because it's still 3-4 days away, so it could turn. For all you know, it could hit the bottom of Florida or go on up toward Panama City. I don't know where, but wow, I love Florida. I like going to Florida. I've been there many times, but damn, when you got that right there, that weather, I would love to live in Florida if it wasn't for that. But man, and certainly nowadays where it seems to be happening more and more frequently, man, that's terrible. Real quick, I just want to, before I continue on, this is something I want to hear. I'll go to the next caller real quickly, and I'll address the super chats real. But I do want to play this because I just happened to see it while talking to my last guest. This is something that might.
I never thought I'd see this, but the government now is tracking real estate.
That's in a commercial. Okay, this is what I want to hear.
I'm Conway Gittins reporting from the New York Stock Exchange. Here's what we're watching on the street today. Investors treaded lightly on Thursday ahead of the crucial monthly employment report Friday.
I'm playing this because it's titled "Biden's Student Loan Plan Can Resume. Here's who qualify." Now, this thing is 2 minutes long. I don't want to play the whole thing, but I do want to hear that because it does pertain to me and many of other folks. Now, folks always say, what did the Democrats do for black people? This shit right here would do a lot for me. So I just want to hear what he says real quick. The video is only a minute or so, and I'll go right back to the show as normal.
This data could support the Federal Reserve's decision to make a big interest rate cut in September, or spark fear that even more rate cuts are needed to prevent the labor market from softening too much. In other news, if you have a student loan, you will not be forgiven for having whiplash, because this time, they're on again, thanks to a ruling by a federal judge. A restraining order temporarily blocking student debt relief will expire, paving the way for loan balances to disappear for 27.6 million Americans. With all of Biden's student loan reduction programs combined, 3 out of every 4 federal student loan borrowers could benefit, according to the Center for American Progress. The Department of Education hailed the latest ruling, which arrived a month before the November presidential elections. Quote, "We will not stop fighting to fix the broken student loan system and provide support and relief to borrowers across the country." This debt forgiveness plan will help if you fall into one of these categories. 1, your loan balance is larger than the amount you borrowed. 2, you've been making payments for decades. 3, you have a loan from a school facing financial trouble. 4, you qualify for a loan forgiveness program but have yet to apply. The White House says the plan, which still has to be finalized, will save borrowers $147 billion over a decade. Republicans have tried to block all of Biden's student loan rollbacks by turning to the courts. They did score a win earlier this year with the Supreme Court. That'll do it for your Daily Brief.
I would qualify for that. I won't go into which one of those provisions, but I would actually qualify for that. Wow. I need that shit. God. Seriously, folks, I'm just going to tell you, I got 3 college degrees. I'm a working guy. I've been working since I was 14, so I'm not sitting on my ass, and I'm not, making a mint off of TikTok and YouTube. I actually have a day job. And man, that would make so big of a difference in my life. Me personally, I'm not talking about anybody else. I know a lot of my friends on the right don't believe in forgiving tuition loan debt. But this is one of the things I will say also is folks often, okay, I'm trying to get my YouTube, something happened. Okay, a lot of folks will say that instead of sending money to the Ukraine or helping Israel, we need to help out Americans. That student loan debt overwhelmingly will be helping out Americans. Probably 99% of the people whose loans will be forgiven are Americans. Yet the right is against that. Just like with universal health care, most of that shit was helping out Americans. So, but this right here, as I said, there is nothing that would benefit me in regard, like Trump could do whatever he wants to do with the economy, inflation. It would not benefit me to that level. That would be huge to me. Will G says, yeah, Trump is all about dog whistles, the bad ones and the good ones. I'm hearing that term more and more in reference to former President Trump. Zach C says, women can't run their house, much less the country. Damn, Zach. So what Zach is clearly saying is that it ain't necessarily just Kamala Harris, it's the gender. He said women cannot run their house, much less the country. Damn. Damn, Zach. That's harsh. Will said Trumpers are drunk with TDS. You know, the whole Trump derangement syndrome thing, look, in my opinion, you only way you can have Trump derangement syndrome is if you're negative of Trump. You could put Trump on you can tattoo the name Trump on your forehead and go to every rally possible, and you'll never be referred to as having Trump derangement syndrome. You only can get Trump derangement syndrome if you are critical of the former president, which makes no sense to me at all. I mean, because there are people who got Trump's face on their cars, his name tattooed on their body. They're wearing Trump gear every time you see him. They've painted his name and his campaign slogan on the side of their property and everything. They don't have TDS. Only the people that criticize them. To me, the whole thing is a wash when you have that kind of mindset. But looking in the comments before we continue on with the program, Republicans blocked and tried to sue Biden for student loan relief because Republicans benefit from loan debt. How do Republicans benefit from loan debt? Unless you got investments in the institutions, how do Republicans benefit from that? There's a whole lot of Republicans that would benefit from debt forgiveness. It was the same thing with Obama Universal Care, Affordable Care Act, the ACA, or Obamacare as they called it. Republicans were totally against that shit. Yet they're some of the biggest participants in it now. I don't know why you'd go against something that, I mean, at the end of the day, a whole lot of the impoverished Bible Belt states featured a lot of Americans down there that lean red, lean Republican, they were uninsured, didn't have any health insurance. Yet they were against the Affordable Care Act. That never made any sense to me. I didn't other than the guy who's trying to give it to you, you don't favor him, you don't like Obama, but you need health care. That to me sounded like going against your own best interest, which is also why Trump could not repeal and replace it as he promised, because people were using it. People, even among his supporters, were using it. You want your body, your choice, your student, wait a minute, this is fun. Ed G says, you want your body, your choice. Then he says, well, then your student loan, your debt. I get it. And I understand the message of responsibility. I'll even say it from my own standpoint before I go back to the box. And by the way, tap the screen, folks. Get the likes up to about 70,000. Smash that like button. Tap the screen on TikTok. Smash that like button on YouTube. YouTube, maybe we can get to 100. Can we get to 100? Some of you folks with access to three dots at the top of your screen and tap the like button. Real quick, this is the story I give in regards to the student loan debt. Nobody forced me personally to take out a student loan debt. That is my debt. That is my responsibility. The example I give is, let's say, for instance, I don't know how to swim. Now, in reality, I'm a decent swimmer, but let's say I didn't know how to swim. And I deliberately jump off the pier into the deep end of the pool, knowing that I cannot swim. Nobody made me jump in. I chose to do that on my own, knowing I could not swim. Now, I'm struggling to tread water, damn near drowning, and I can see two people standing on a pier looking at me. Now, I'm reaching out for help because I don't jump into some shit and I can't swim. Nobody made me jump in. I just did it. Irresponsible of me to do it. I can see two people looking down at me while I'm struggling to tread water, damn near drowning. One guy is telling me, your dumbass jumped in there. You need to figure out a way to get out. Nobody made you jump in there. The other guy is bending over trying to throw a life preserver and saying, grab this. Nobody made me jump in, but I'm drowning. What am I supposed to do? Now, I could take responsibility and just keep trying to tread water. If I drown, I drown, because nobody made me do it. That is my responsibility. I jumped in on my own. But somebody is offering to save me. What am I supposed to do? That is the example I often give in regards to student loan debt for a lot of Americans. I mean, I get it. It is their responsibility. Nobody forced them to sign. But if you are financially drowning and you got two people standing on the pier looking down on you, what do? Do you just go ahead and keep swallowing water on the grounds that, well, you know, at the end of the day, the guy telling me I need to figure it out and get out of here, it is my fault. Do you just drown, or do you grab that life preserver that the other guys offer you? I'll leave that up to you folks to consider that. Real quick in the comments, though, I want to answer. Will G says college was free before desegregation. And I have heard that some folks were okay with welfare and college education and things like that being, you know, coming out of the taxpayers' dough until it started being available for people of color, and then all of a sudden they didn't want it anymore. I don't know if that's completely valid, but I've heard it from a lot of different locations that a lot of stuff there was a lot more assistance to struggling Americans until people of color gained their freedom and could also qualify for that same stuff. And then all of a sudden people didn't want that to be available anymore. I have heard that from a lot of folks. Real quick in the comments, this will give MAGA the opportunity to show their patriotism. Don't apply for loan forgiveness. Good luck on that one, Twain. I get your point, though. But I'll tell you this. Let me go to the box. When Obama was offering Obamacare, MAGA did, well, it wasn't MAGA at the time. They were called the Tea Party, but same crowd. They did do it. Some of those Republican states did resist the handout that they thought Obama was giving. I buy multi-million-dollar homes I can't afford. Should taxpayers pay? Wait a minute. I buy multi-million-dollar homes you cannot afford. Should taxpayers pay for it? You know, if we go by the guys that, well, you shouldn't give student loan forgiveness because somebody else is dealing with you, we'll have a society where nobody will ever do anything for anybody. I mean, I had to pay rent where I'm living at. Should we help homeless people out? I mean, you could come up with an excuse not to help anybody out no matter what they're going through. And that's kind of where we've kind of gotten in this country, which is why it is so difficult for the downtrodden to get help. Because anytime you try to pass a bill to help out somebody who's not doing well, somebody else steps up and says, well, I'm hurting over here, so why should you help them out? Only people I think we unanimously agree that should be helped out are veterans. But struggling Americans for any other reason, oh, I'm dealing with this, why should I help them out? To me, that just sounds like selfishness. And that's also part of the reason why, even though I grew up Christian, I'm not very Christian anymore. Because there are a lot of Christians in this country that are pushing back on helping out the downtrodden based on, well, I want to continue living the lifestyle I live. Let me go back to the box. And I see somebody said, I thought it was America first. It's America first. You hear, in my opinion, the correct slogan should be me first. It should be me first. I think that's what most people are kind of fighting for. Gen X, the one and only. Always good to talk to Gen X. Good evening, Gen X. Me first.
What up, Jim?
Hey, what's up? Good to have you on. What am I getting wrong this evening?
Well, the first thing I'd like to, what the fuck is wrong with my camera?
It's probably turned around the other way. You're probably facing the other way or something. Don't worry about it.
Let me see.
We can hear you, though. Somebody in the comments that says Chanel is asking you to fix her a sandwich. Sandwich. She says sandwich, though. She didn't say sandwich.
All right, we're just going to go with that for tonight.
Let's do
I
it.
don't know what the hell's wrong with my camera.
It's all good.
Who wants a sandwich?
Chanel in the comments said you need to fix her a sandwich. Not a sandwich,
I've
a
got
sandwich.
You, girl. Hey, if I'll fix Aunt Esther a sandwich,
Oh,
I'll fix
my.
one for you.
Oh my God. That was really funny though. That shit was hilarious.
Hey, all joking aside, I love Keisha. She's funny, and when I get on and say, hey, I'm signing off because she's taught, I sit there and listen to her because she's seriously amusing.
Okay, fair enough.
She reminds me of a good fucking American home fucking based woman that takes care of her man and her family.
All right,
and I respect that.
She needs to hear that.
Fucking political views.
She needs regardless
of her political view, I respect that.
Well, yeah, you're not gonna agree with her politically because you don't believe women should have the right to vote. So you got a difference of opinion there.
No, but I know that woman can cook.
Even when you're right, you're wrong. I tell you. So, so let me ask you though, because what I've been talking about is there are people all over the media like J.D. Vance and Lewandowski and the Speaker of the House. They won't answer when asked, did Biden win the 2020 election? Are they scared of Trump?
I don't think Republicans are afraid of Trump, and here's why. And this is going to shock you. I agree with Dinkow 100%. If you have alpha males, I'm not going to say what I am. What I believe is that if I don't agree with you, I'm not going to agree with you. You tell me to drink some poison Kool-Aid, I'm going to say, you know what? You first, motherfucker. Right. And if you ain't doing the fish, then I'll drink it. But if you're flopping like a fish, fuck off.
But well, what Dinkow says, he believes that MAGA are willing to put their life on the line for Trump. What say you?
Well, he also said that a lot of MAGA aren't alpha males, and there I disagree with them. Most MAGA are alpha males. We don't love Trump. We don't support Trump because he's right all the time. We support Trump because I'm not going to say we. I believe that he's the best option for the country at this stage in the game, man.
Well, but I get that. I totally understand. There's nothing wrong with thinking Trump is the best direction for the country, but that doesn't mean you are hesitant or unwilling to criticize him where he may be wrong, such as the eating of cats and dogs. Why won't Republican politicians come out and say, at the very least, that's unfounded? Now, I'm going to flat out tell you it's not true in my opinion. It's a complete lie. But at the very least, it's unfounded. There's no evidence to that. Why won't they come out and say that?
Now, I'll answer that. But let me ask you this first. Have you ever asked me something about Trump that I disagreed with and I openly disagreed with and said I don't agree with Trump?
That's a good question. And I think you admitted you don't agree with the stop and frisk. You don't agree with police immunity. You said that.
The answer is yes. Okay, going back to the dogs eating cats. You know what? I'm not there. I don't know. Do I want to see some evidence? I'm like you. I would go there with a fucking camera and say, you know what? If you're eating dogs and cats, do it. I can make a lot of money with this.
Right.
Sit there, fillet them up, cook them, defer them, and let's make some money.
And I see in the comments, Elizabeth is saying there is evidence. Hey, there is no evidence to that. I'm going to come out and flat out say it. Like I said, I talked to.
I'll disagree with you, Tim.
Huh?
There is circumstantial evidence. And there is limited video evidence.
Let me say this.
Everybody might fucking like to see, and you're gonna say, "Okay, show it to me." I've sent you several videos.
Okay, let me ask you a few questions about this. Okay, hold on, hang on. Let me ask you a few questions. First of all, which animals are being eaten in the videos you sent?
I'm gonna say cats, but I think the biggest one was the geese. Or gooses, or whatever.
So you got to, so geese and possibly a cat. Any dogs?
No dogs.
Okay, because Trump did say dogs as well. Okay, in your video, is there solid evidence that's taking place in Springfield, Ohio?
On a couple of them, yeah. I sent them to you, bro. I sent you several videos.
Where did you send them?
Several. Yeah, they're in your messages.
I have to look them up.
I send you so many videos. I just sent you a video about
how do you
about the AD thing that it is happening.
Okay, I'll look
children that are born alive.
Okay, I'll look it up. I see in the comments Red is saying play it now. For obvious reasons, I can't play it on TikTok. YouTube might let me get away with that shit, but TikTok is not. But what I want to say is, okay, let's question is, what did you see in the video that's verifying this in Springfield, Ohio?
Them eating a cat.
No, you can eat a cat in Chicago. No. Wait a minute. What have you seen in the video that verifies this in Springfield, Ohio, and not Chicago, Illinois?
Okay, none of them are time stamped. Not once time.
I'm asking about the city.
Or area stamp.
Okay, so
I've seen videos of them that they say. There's one guy that posted a video. He shows the Springfield water tower, and he goes around and he shows. He doesn't show him eating them. He shows him trapping the cats.
The guy could be a
black people.
Okay.
Hold on, black people. Now I'm not saying they're American brothers and sisters. They're obviously Haitians.
How do you know they're obviously Haitian? What are you seeing in the video suggest they're Haitians?
Because I can never picture your fucking big ass eating a cat.
But you said in the video they're just trapping them. They're not eating them.
Oh, so you're going to trap a cat for a pet?
You could trap a cat because you want to take a stray off the street. I mean, you could be a dog catcher. That might be your job, is to trap wild animals.
I know you're not that.
Wait, hold on. Let me say this. Do you really believe that anybody seen on the street grabbing an animal is going to eat it?
No.
Then why do you believe it in this case?
That's an unfair. Hold on. That's an unfair question. No, I don't believe that. However, within context of the conversation, if I see Haitians trapping animals, yeah, I think they're eating them or they're sacrificing.
Based on what? What are you basing that? Why do you think?
Culture.
It's not their culture to eat animals. It's not their culture.
Okay, hold on. You're going to tell me that it's not Haitian culture to sacrifice animals and or eat them?
No, it's not. And I'll tell you, let me say this, Gen X.
You need to get back in the books, bro.
Okay, let me say this, Gen X. Haitians have been in this country since you and I were born. I mean, there's even a town called Little Haiti down in Florida, I believe. There are Haitians in the New York area. They have never been known, until Trump came out and said that, known as people who eat cats and dogs. They've been in this country since you and I were born, and they never had that reputation.
Now, wait a second. There's a big difference. If you bring 10 to 20 Haitians into a community, they acclimate very well. If you bring a community of 20,000 people into a community of 30,000, guess what? They're going to do what they know from their old country.
No. Yeah, let me just say.
That's night and day, bro. That's night and day.
Gen X, when I lived in Australia, there were very few African Americans living over there. I mean, I was one of them. I mean, there's a few, but African Americans living in Australia is not very common. And we still found ways to get Jiffy Mix and a lot of things from our culture. You don't need 20,000 people. If that's what you enjoy eating, you're going to find, if they enjoy eating cats and dogs, you don't need 20,000 of them together. 2,000 would do it. And they were not known for doing this until Trump said it. There was no history of this until he said that.
You know what DinCal says? Don't you ever go with Julio or Gen X on a road trip because you ain't safe. I've got the resources to come get your big ass and bring you over to there. We can get a hotel room and check it out for ourselves.
Wait a minute, you starting to sound like P. Diddy. Wait a minute.
I won't bring any oil.
You're scaring me. Real quick in the comments, Will G says, just like college players were playing for free and colleges were big beneficiaries of until the NIL took hold. The college leadership is heavily Republican. Okay, he's talking about Republicans benefit from student loans. That's why y'all don't want to forgive them. What do you think about Biden forgiving student loans?
What do I think about Biden forgiving student loans?
Yeah, Americans in need.
I don't agree with it.
Why not?
The Supreme Court shot it down.
Why don't you
go to school to learn underwater basket weaving? I'm not paying for it.
I thought you wanted to help out Americans.
Now, let me preface that. if we're talking about if Biden would have said, okay, everybody who went to school for a medical degree, a psychological degree, something that'll help society, that's arguable. Then I would have been like, well, that's something that helps us all. More doctors, more medical professionals, more mental health professionals. I'm almost willing to give a part of my my income to that. But when it's unclaimed, it's like, well, if they go for underwater basket weaving, they go for fucking tree bark sampling, they go for this or that. No, I'm not okay with paying for that shit.
All right, I'm in need, so and I didn't go for any of those things, but I want to read something else to you. This is something I saw on YouTube while you and I were talking. I don't know how valid this is, but it states Florida has the largest Haitian population in the United States. Now, obviously, Springfield is in Ohio, but Florida with an estimated 500,000 people. There is more than 1/3 of the total Haitian population in the country. So most Haitians in America are in Florida. And like I said, I have never heard. Huh?
That's a great point. You know how many stray animals in Florida?
Oh my God. Well, before you continue with that bullshit, let me continue. New York, after Florida having 500,000, New York has 176,287 Haitians. Massachusetts has 77,000. New Jersey has 70,000. All of these places have more than Springfield. Georgia has 61,000. Notice that the whole notion of them eating cats and dogs was not heard of in these areas. If that is part of their culture, there should be plenty of Floridians that can talk about this happening. And you never heard about it.
All right, Tim. All right, and that's a good point. And you're absolutely correct. But how many of those Haitians were dropped in each individual locality at one time?
What is that?
20,000. There was 2,000 here, 1,000 there.
So wait a minute. So what are you saying?
They dropped 20,000 in Springfield, Ohio, within 30 days.
So what are you saying, that if you drop them in small numbers, they get rid of their culture, but if you drop them in large numbers, they keep it?
Well, yeah, there's power.
That doesn't make. That's not true. When I use my own self as an example in Australia. I had a bumper sticker with the American flag on my car. I still honored American holidays. You don't lose your culture just because there's a few of you. If I dropped you in a different country, you would still adhere to America. Let's say you fell in love with a French girl or a German girl, and it was just you. You would still observe some American cultures. You wouldn't totally assimilate 100% where you're at and completely disassociate yourself from America. If you drop 3,000 or 4,000 Haitians in Florida, if their culture is eating cats and dogs, they're going to still have a taste for it. So the idea that...
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. If you drop 5,000 of any ethnic group into a population of 50,000, or you drop 20,000 in a population of 30,000, who's more to be less assimilative? I don't know if that's a word or not.
Yeah, I get your point that larger numbers. I get your point that larger numbers may be more dominant, but that still doesn't take away from my point. Even if you drop 1,000 Haitians in a town that's 1 million strong, they're not going to get rid of their whole damn culture. If they have a taste for these animals, even though it's only 1,000 of them in a town that's 1 million strong, they're going to still find a way to eat them. And you didn't hear about this stuff until Trump started talking about it. That you should have heard about that. 500,000 of them are in Florida.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever had a fucking a cat leg sauteed in olive oil and then breaded and then baked?
What the fuck? Why are you asking that? All right, Gen X. All right. We up too late. I'm moving on. Jesus Christ. As always, appreciate you coming to.
Hey, one more thing before I go.
Yeah.
Where's my baby girl, Takesha? Where is my woman, Esther?
I will pass it on next time I talk to her. I'll pass it on. All right, Gen X. All right, moving on to the program. And that's my whole point, is that There was a lot of Haitians in this country long before Springfield, Ohio. If that was what they do as part of their culture, you'd have heard about it. You'd have heard about it before Trump. The fact that you haven't heard about it speaks volumes. And as I was telling my last caller, most of them are not even in Ohio. In fact, looking at this list, top 10 places, Springfield's not even on the list. Springfield is not even on the list of top 10 cities or top 10 areas where Haitians are located at. So if they were going to be eating cats and dogs as part of their culture, you would have heard about it by now. So I don't, obviously Trump is not going to apologize or clear it up, and he's not going to provide evidence. Wrong. To me, that is really wrong to say that, because he could get some of these folks really hurt. A lot of animal lovers. MAGA loves animals just like the Democrats do. Nobody wants to hear that people are killing and eating innocent animals. He could get people hurt with that shit. He should at least have to provide proof. Now, the Haitian Alliance group in that area is suing him and JD Vance. I don't know how far they will get in court, suggesting that he, used up a bunch of resources in town because they were getting bomb threats and everything. They had to close down public meetings and schools. And they really messed that town up for a few days. So they're suing Trump and JD Vance. Like I said, I don't know how far the lawsuit will get. Trump is pretty well bullet. He's pretty much bulletproof in terms of the court. But in my opinion, he should have to show proof. If you're going to say something awful like that, you should have to show solid proof that that's actually happening. And he certainly didn't. MAGA, Trump supporters, are stumbling around to find some evidence to defend him. He didn't prove shit. Neither did him or JD Vance. They didn't provide any evidence at all. It's their supporters that are trying to come up with stuff. This will give MAGA the opportunity to show their patriotism. Don't apply for loan forgiveness. That ain't gonna happen, Twain. That is not gonna happen. I said that earlier. Real quick in the comments, Will G says, actually, that's not what I wanted to read here. It was this one. NFL and NBA players are heavily Republican besides Mark Cuban. And players are owners. Wait a minute. Let me look at that again. NFL, owners. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, I will admit one of the reasons to vote for Trump or vote Republican over the Democratic Party is finances. Financially, if that is your primary reason for voting, is your finances, particularly if you're wealthy, and that's your main reason to vote, you probably should vote Democrat or Republican rather. Certainly if you own your own company, because the Democrats are in favor of requiring you to raise the minimum wage, requiring you to let employees unionize, requiring you maybe to provide health care and unemployment insurance and things like that. The Republican Party is not going to force you to do any of that. So if you are a wealthy employer, or you own your own company, or you're a business owner, and that is your primary reason for voting is to make sure your bank account stays strong, I think it's in your best interest probably to vote right, because they're not going to force you to give up money. You often hear the right refer to the left as socialists and they're for free shit and all of that. The right's mindset is everybody for themselves, kind of. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Everybody for themselves. So if you are wealthy and you have succeeded at the game, why would you vote for a party that's going to make you share what you've accomplished? The right isn't going to do that. The right isn't going to place any limitations on how much more you can accomplish. The right is going to be more likely to lower your taxes and your requirements to contribute to society. So yeah, if your finances are the most important thing, and you're, I'd say, middle class on up, it probably makes better sense to vote Republican. More so even with Trump. So that's what I always say. There are legitimate reasons to vote for Trump. Money is one of them. Real quick, I hate to use the term, but selfishness. If you're wealthy and selfish, you want to be selfish, the Democrats ain't going to let you do that. You're going to get more protections, if you want to be selfish, now I'm not saying all Republicans are selfish, but there are plenty of selfish rich people out there. If that's the primary reason you're voting, you're not gay or you're not for civil rights, you're focusing strictly on, I want to keep my nest egg. I don't want to be forced to share it. You should vote Republican. Every time. It is far more favorable to that mindset, in my opinion. They have been going to Ohio since 2010, says Dennis Calhoun. Like I said, I have not been hearing. Now, you're saying the Haitian migrants have been going there since 2010? That would have been during the Obama administration. And that's something that Trump leaves folks believing, certainly on the right, that there was no immigration issue. People were not coming in here under his watch. Like they recently released the crime numbers of how many criminals are in this country, that and all that, and the right believes that all of that started under Biden. Now, they didn't release any proof to suggest that all of these folks came in here since 2020, but the right believes that. Chinese eat, I'm assuming that says cats and dogs, never seen it, doesn't mean it hasn't happened, says Ed G. No, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But if you're going to go on the national stage like the president did in front of tens of millions of people and suggest that those migrants are eating not only cats and dogs, but people's pets. They're not, like farm raised catfish or something like that. You can go and, and thank you for the subscription, Jess K. Is that just saying or just K? Thank you, folks, for that. Appreciate you showing the program support. Thank you. It's a difference between eating fish and actually going to some kid's bedroom and taking his goldfish out to take and eating them motherfuckers, his pets. Trump is saying that they're eating people's pets. So I will say this, as you pointed out, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's happening. You should have to prove that. If you're going to make that type of accusation against people on a global stage like that, you should have to show proof. You shouldn't just be to make that and move on. And that's why they're suing Trump. In my opinion, anybody that does that at that level, you should be able to sue him. Tiffany, for the people, thank you for the subscription, and same with Big Rick. Thank you. Thank you, folks, for showing the program some love. You guys are helping me get to that progress. Thank you. JD Vance said here's the thing with JD Vance, because Trump also said he lost the 2020 election by what did he say? By a hair or some term he used. Then he backtracked on it. JD Vance is also saying that if you got to make up things to draw people's attention to what's going on, but then he's kind of backtracked on that. So, but yeah, my opinion is, if you make a statement like that has put a lot of folks' lives in danger, you got little kids that are scared to go outside and shit like that, they should be able to sue him. It should be adjudicated in court. And if what he is saying is true, then let him bring proof to court and win. But he should have to prove that what he's saying is true. Will G, not everyone can be a business owner, much less a shitty one like Trump. People think they can start a business owner. People think they can start a business and get rich quick, but they are not. I disagree that not everybody can be a business owner, but everybody doesn't have what it takes to be a business owner successfully. So I might be saying exactly what you're saying, maybe just wording it differently. But you are correct. Everybody doesn't have the mentality to be a business owner. And the right is more favorable to small business and business owners. I think the left is more favorable to the working man. And I think the right is more favorable to the working man's employer. Because you generally hear when they're passing laws, the right generally speaks on, I don't want you to do this because it might hurt small business owners. That's usually who they're talking about defending. And the left is generally talking about the working man. So I do believe that that's how it kind of works. So that's why I said alter ego. Appreciate you folks that are showing the program some love. Thank you. Absolutely. Going back to the business, and I see the comments, Fancy Pressy says business owners provide jobs. They do, but they're not flawless. They do things like also lay people off. They also do things like refuse to give people raises, refuse to give people unemployment, discriminate. I mean, there's bad things. The small business ain't all good. They ain't all bad either, but they're not all good. So I want to point that out. Will G says people will start a business for the tax benefits and loans, but will do nothing to build it up. All Trump did was benefit and cheat on taxes. Wow. You don't have anything favorable to say about Trump at all. Wow. I do believe Trump was a successful business owner. I know I get a lot of flack from the left about that because of the bankruptcies, the casinos, and all of that, but he's a billionaire. If you go from a millionaire to a billionaire with a B, I don't really care about the path you took to get there. I see that as success. I mean, at the end of the day, the purpose of a business owner is to make money. I mean, if 6 bankruptcies, whatever, at the end of the day, if your bank account is going up, you're successful. That's the way I see it. A lot of people may disagree. No one wants to pay taxes, says Michael Martinez. Then don't call yourself a damn patriot. Let me just say that. If you're calling yourself a patriot and you're trying to avoid tax, what happened to taking care of America first? You think America could survive if nobody paid taxes? Orange is the new Black Lives MAGA. All right, I see that, Paul. All right, let me go back to the box. Jeremy, good afternoon. Now, Jeremy usually corrects me. I'm sure I've gotten a few things wrong. Jeremy, good evening. What say you?
Can you repeat the question?
We're talking about, I don't want to get too deep back into eating animals and shit like that, but what I want to bring up is the actual topic of the show, and that is, why are there so few Republicans that will admit Biden actually won the election in 2020?
Oh, because it's under super sussy conditions. I know people don't want to hear it, but let's be honest. And also it's also partially because of a precedent that the Democrats set when Trump got into office, where they were all talking about Russian hacks, Mueller reports. Oh, it hurts my little jimmies, you know.
Yeah, but they're not saying that Trump has said he won by a landslide. He's not saying it was a suspicious election. Now, you may have a point if somebody were to say, look, well, Pennsylvania changed the way they voted, and that was kind of suspicious. He said he won by a landslide. Where the hell is he getting that from?
That's normal Trump taking something that I think he does believe, and I think he likes to blow it up a little bit, because he's a showman.
So
but I think he does believe he won.
Okay, but do you believe he won by a landslide?
I don't think by a landslide, but honestly, I think that I'm gonna just go ahead and say I don't know. I've never completely settled my thought on that. I've gone back and forth. But I definitely think that I definitely think it was super sus how it was done, especially with mail-in votes, because mail-in votes have a higher chance of being manipulated.
Okay, and I get your point.
That's the thing. But I will say this, Handsome, before you say anything, I will say, just because you do mail-in voting doesn't guarantee fraud. It just puts a little bit more vulnerability in it, and I haven't seen any solid proof that anything came of it that was
and that is exactly what I was going to say. Leaving my door unlocked doesn't mean somebody has broken in my house. It means they could do it, but that doesn't mean I get to wake up in the morning and accuse my neighbors of breaking in my house. Trump stated, just like with the Dominion voting machines, they claimed the Dominion voting machines, they were able to find a way that showed you could hack into it. So they just automatically assumed people did do that, and they did it to benefit Biden. Now, you're admitting that you even have not seen proof, and you are stating that you believe Trump exaggerates on things, and he's exaggerating on this. So you believe that Trump is lying about the 2020 election then?
I believe he's exaggerating about it, but I think he believes that he won.
What's the difference between exaggerating and lying?
You got a point there. So I guess it is a form of lying, but I don't think it's an outright blatant white lie. I think it's a little bit of a gray area.
What are the different races? Is there an Asian lie? Is there a Hispanic lie? What do you mean? It's not a white. Is there different levels of lying?
I think there is a different level of lying. Like, it depends on how much you're lying about, and how much it obfuscates the full picture. I think that, let's say that, for instance, you gave me $100. You said, "Okay, Jeremy, go down to the store and get us milk, cheese, and eggs." and then I decide that I'm going to use the spare change and to buy myself something that you didn't give me permission to do that with. But I'll tell you about it. But I get you everything that you said you would. But what did you get the stuff I asked for?
What about the notion that I don't think there's a single member of Trump's administration that would be responsible for looking into the election, like Attorney General Barr and folks. There's not one member of his administration that is saying that he won or told him that he won. So when you say he believes he won, where's he getting it from?
I think he's getting it from the fact that, number one, I think he knows that he's a popular president. So, like, he definitely, is a president that kind of came out of nowhere and didn't have any prior experience and was able to do something that most people weren't able to. Like you can't, have people, do what happened on Jan 6th without you having, a good amount of support. I don't even think that W would have been able to pull that off because of his popularity.
I don't think. Well, W wouldn't have lied like that either, though. W wouldn't have. I mean, because we're talking about him saying he won by a landslide. No one is agreeing with him. Even people who would have got a second term, who could have made a fortune and stayed in power, like Mike Pence and Barr, and a lot of folks that were on his administration, where it would have benefited them to win a second term. No one around him is telling him, sir, you won this election, yet he keeps saying it. Why would he keep believing it? I mean, at some point, it almost sounds like maybe he does realize he lost, but he don't want to cop to it because of the damage.
Well, the other reason why is because remember when the left was saying an election was fortified, and somehow Joe Biden won by more votes than and historically has been won by most presidents.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so there's a good movie called Midway that I would highly recommend watching, and there's a scene in there where they kind of describe what I'm talking about. They said what if you go to a place and you ask if there's a wedding being hosted here, and they tell you no, but then you see a bunch of band members show up and set up their instruments, and then you see a whole bunch of flowers and bouquet is being spread across a long table, and then a bunch of people in suits and dresses start showing up. At some point, are you gonna put two and two together?
Yeah, but
it's kind of like that.
Okay, but I don't see the 2 and 2 where Trump got to put together. Most of the folks, Jeremy, that have been caught cheating in the 2020 election, they're doing it for Trump. We just had a woman the other day get 9 years in prison. Most of the folks getting caught, there are so many folks on the right that have been caught cheating in the 2020 election that any liberal improprieties people may bring up to say, well, that election didn't look right, can be counteracted with there's a whole bunch of right-wing cheating. So look, at the end of the day, we can say that it's pretty clear that there was some cheating in that election, but Trump saying he won by a landslide. How can we not suggest that it seems like he just pulled that out of his ass? There's no, even you're admitting there's no proof of that.
I admit, well, first off, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So, just because you don't see
4 years, Jeremy, it's been 4 years. Nothing.
I know. I'm just saying. And the media has been against him for a long time. And most of the establishment,
Jeremy,
including the Republicans, have hated him for a long time. And again, I don't even know if it really was stolen or not. What I do know is that I understand where he's coming from. I understand and him looking at it, and he's just noticing things too much, and he's just like,
Jeremy,
come on.
Here's
Jeremy. This guy who can barely talk and fell up the stairs on Air Force One somehow will beat me and won more votes than most presidents do in historical elections. And especially during a time where our civil liberties were violated and during the COVID era, and we had mail-in ballots. After a while, you just can't help but at least say it's suspicious. But but the reason why I don't just say it was totally stolen is because there's no solid. There's nothing solid.
I don't even think there's any. I don't even think there. You said there's nothing solid. There's barely even any shaky evidence. There's just in terms of for an election to be stolen, there would have to be fraudulent activities committed. There's not even any shaky. Most, like I mentioned earlier, most of the fraud has been Republicans. You know, fake electors. I mean, it's been mostly Republicans that have. How many Democrats have actually been caught and convicted of cheating? There's a lot of Republicans that have.
So far, there hasn't been any, and that's part of the reason why I'm holding back. But remember, and like I know it's a biased.
It's very biased. It's extremely biased. You got dozens of Republicans that have been caught, virtually no Democrats, and yet it's still difficult to get you to say, well, maybe Trump is lying about it. You're still kind of on the Trump side, even though you got dozens of Republicans caught cheating and virtually no Democrats, and you're still on the Trump side of this, even though the side.
Well, I think that no matter what, whether it was stolen or not, at this point, it's not even all that relevant, because as long as we've already had the 4 years of Biden, and let's say, yeah, regardless of who wins, Biden had his time in office, and you can't really reverse time. So you at best. There really isn't a whole lot that can be done at this point. Even if tomorrow we found out, oh yeah, the election was totally stolen. It's one of those things where you just kind of like move on.
I agree. Okay. I will agree with you 100%. We need to move on. But I'm watching a Trump rally about 3 hours ago, and he's talking about it. You can't move on when the guy keeps saying it. He's still going around the country saying it. Nobody's just like with January 6th, it's become an issue, at least with MAGA, that we don't want to hear this unless it's coming out of Trump's mouth. If Trump says it, we'll cheer and applaud, but we would rather everybody else move on from January 6th in the 2020 election. But when Trump says it, we'll cheer and applaud. If they were yelling out at his rallies, sir, could you talk about something else? Then I'd understand. But they're applauding him when he brings this stuff up. But then when somebody else does, they want that person to be quiet about it. So are we in an environment where only Trump can talk about this stuff?
I don't really think, well, that's kind of what happens with any cult of personality. And I think we saw that with a little bit of Obama too. A lot of people blindly believed everything he said as well.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples of something that Obama said that people blindly believed that wasn't true or something like that.
Oh damn! I can't think of anything off the top.
Not one thing.
No, I didn't come prepared with that. Like I do this off the cuff, man.
All right.
Your boy goes off the cuff here.
Okay, all right.
But I will say this. Regardless of whether or not it was stolen or not, not only is that not going to change that. Someone else was in there for 4 years, and Trump's going to have to let go of it, like the girl who got away. But at the same time, I don't think that's going to affect the fact that the Biden administration is really not doing well with this hurricane stuff. Their response is really looking bad.
Wait a minute, but let me say this in regards to the hurricane thing. I don't think the Biden administration could do well with the hurricane stuff because it's an election. This is what I mean. We're coming up on an election very close, a very divided, contested election, and the other side is looking for negative things to bash Biden on. They're not above politicizing a hurricane. So you could do everything. Let's say whatever Trump is saying that needs to be done. If Biden was to do that, they would still have big problems with how Biden is handling the hurricane. Because the goal is not to help those people. The goal is to bash Biden. So there's nothing he can do to make this right. I mean, they want to use this. So you're saying he's handling it poorly. Go ahead.
Well, that will happen with any fanatics.
Right.
Like anytime there's fanatics on any side, that will happen. But here's the thing: but if the Biden administration handles it correctly, or at least try to do like a 95% correct thing, it will at least not turn out as bad or be as much ammunition for the other side. You can't.
There's no way to do that, though, Jeremy. Jeremy, there's no way. There's no way for Biden to do 95% or whatever, because no matter what he does, like I said, he could do exactly what Trump asked him to do, and it would be very easy for Trump to go on the ground in those areas and still find thousands of people that say Biden is failing them. It would be that easy to do. I mean, look how many people are saying that they're eating cats and dogs. Look how many people who are saying that Trump won the 2020 election. No proof at all. It's very easy to find people that say what you need them to say, and that's what he would do. It could do exactly what Trump thinks he should do for the hurricane. And they would just go on the ground down in those states and areas and find plenty of MAGA and folks that do not favor Biden or Harris that would say, look, he ain't showed up and did shit for us. And they would put all of that on TV, and Biden would still be doing a shitty job.
Well, two things. Number one, I think that you like this, like, you know, the areas that have been affected the most are definitely more MAGA. But I mean, and you could say that if you all of a sudden like a hurricane hit California and all the West Coast areas like Washington and Oregon and all that stuff, and you'd probably find a bunch of people that would say, you know, Harris is doing the best she can, and if Trump was doing this right now, oh, this would be a complete failure. So I don't think that negates how important it is to do this at least as correctly as you can. And because
well,
here's
the difference. Here's the difference.
Gasoline on a fire.
Here's the difference, though. You are right. The folks on the left are going to try to paint Harris and Biden in a good picture, just like the right would do for Trump. But the difference is Harris or Biden would not get involved in the mud like Trump is. It's one thing for voters to be getting politicized and divisive. It's another thing for it to be coming out of the leadership. Harris and Biden would not be going after Trump during a hurricane, like for instance, saying that they're deliberately only helping Democrats and ignoring Republicans. Kamala Harris and Biden wouldn't do nothing like that. They wouldn't. I don't feel they would do that without some solid evidence. Trump is doing it, no evidence at all. He can't prove that. But and also him saying that he didn't help areas, and then all of a sudden the governors are like, yeah, he did call us and he's helping us. That type of stuff. That's coming from the top. It shouldn't be coming out of Trump's mouth.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of truth to that. But the thing is, I don't see that like they wouldn't be underhanded with Trump because they would just let the media do it. Because what the media has been doing towards, like outside of like OAN and Fox, like every other media organization, in which there's quite a few of them, other than those two. Have just been like brutal on him, calling him a fascist, saying that he is little mustache man. You know what I mean? I don't want
but the media, Jeremy, the media is different than the president candidate or president or vice president or the candidate themselves. I mean, Fox News said Obama was born in Kenya. They were blaming Nancy Pelosi for January 6th. The media is going to do that. I get your point. A lot of media don't like Trump. But right-wing media is calling Kamala Harris a communist and all of that. And we're not talking about the media. We're talking about Trump himself, a presidential candidate, doing this shit. If Trump let the media, as you said, Kamala Harris and Biden would just let the media do it. If Trump did that, he would probably be finishing his second term right now. He himself gets in the mud.
Maybe. He is one of those people. I will say this. One tactic that got him elected that I think he needs to kind of put on the back burner is he is one of those guys who kind of likes, like I said, he's a showman. He kind of does debates like Comedy Central roasts rather than actual like intellectual debates. That's why I think it was smart that he chose JD Vance, because JD is definitely like a good counterweight to that. But still, I think that after this hurricane and the way they've been handling it, I just don't see like the Harris and Walz recovering from it, especially with such a little time frame that they have left in order to really gain the populace's attention. I think that if they can pull it off, it'll be by the skin of their teeth.
I got to move it on, Jeremy. As always, it's a pleasure, but I will close by saying this. I think the people that believe that Harris and Biden are poorly managing that hurricane, they weren't going to vote for them anyway. I mean, we know that area where you talk, all that stuff is Trump country anyway. Those people were not going to vote for Biden no matter what he did. So, and the people that are complaining about it around the country, they weren't going to vote for Trump or Biden or Kamala Harris either. So I don't personally think they're losing a lot of votes for that. I think they're just pissing off people that were already pissed off. But Jeremy, appreciate you coming through, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Come on back through. Looking in the comments, they got $750 because Republicans would not vote for more
They run the House. And that's a good point because folks are saying $750 ain't shit when you've lost everything. But apparently, there was a measure to vote so that people during disasters would get more than $750, and the Republicans voted against it. That's what he's talking about. Real quick, I wanted to address a super chat from the one and only Will G, if I can find it. I don't know why my screen just froze up there, but thank you, Will G, for that. It says Trump got constant loans, lying about or overinflating assets, never fully paid them back, the turnarounds and accepted foreign loans, which is what you are not supposed to do as an American. Rarely paid taxes, all fake. Now, he admitted and celebrated not paying taxes, said it shows he's smart. Like I said, to me, if you are claiming to be a patriot and you're bragging and listen, I paid less to maintain and manage this country than you did, I don't see how that's patriotic. I mean, it may be a smart money move, but it's not. It doesn't, to me, that doesn't sound pro-American. That sounds pro-you. And to have a presidential candidate bragging that he did it, I mean, somebody who's already born with a silver spoon in his mouth, turned a silver spoon into a gold spoon, and that guy is bragging that he pays less taxes? That doesn't sound patriotic to me. That sounds like a rich person bragging how they were able to negotiate the system and let the poor people and less fortunate handle what they left behind. I don't like it, but I know that's the left side of me, and the right is like, hell yeah, go Trump. Fair enough. Use the system that's been in place. And that needs to be changed because at the end of the day, the way Trump was able to negotiate the system and get away with paying tax, you or I don't have those avenues available to us. Same thing with Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney was also one that was getting hammered for paying less in taxes because he was, making a killing off investments. And they were hammering him back in the day in 2012 about it too. I mean, listen, I understand you're using the system that's in place, but the fact is that system is in place for the wealthy. It does favor, and I'll tell you my own personal story. Back when I was doing financially better than I am now, when I owned a number of properties on the south side of Chicago, I started noticing myself that the more properties I purchased, the more things I could claim and the less in taxes percentage-wise I had to pay. Back when I was working as an engineer for AT&T, doing a ton of overtime as a union employee, taxes were really high. I paid far more in taxes. Certainly when you get into the overtime and double time and all of that shit, you pay a lot more in taxes. But the people who are making money off investments, which by its very nature mean they're probably wealthier, they pay less percentage-wise. They do pay less in taxes. So the system is tailored for the haves as opposed to the have-nots. It's tailored to them. They're the ones that can, lobby the politicians to get laws passed and things like that. The poor man, the only thing you have is your vote. You can vote collectively and put somebody in power. But then once you put somebody in power, the rich man can pull that guy over and put a bunch of money in his campaign and make him do what he wants, even though you voted him in. That's kind of what happens. Looking in the comments, MAGA is already claiming Biden moved red states into the path of the storm. Is that Sharpie gate using a Sharpie? Debo says MAGA is complaining that Biden literally geographically moved a state into the path of a storm. Wow. And I see the comments. Chanel says, Debo, you're drinking. Well, what he's saying is obviously ridiculous, but Trump did use a Sharpie, a black marker, and redrew the path of a hurricane. He actually did that. So I get what Debo said sounds ridiculous, but it's based on something that Trump really did. Tim, do you know there's patents on hurricanes? How can you patent a hurricane? What, is it the name or something? I'm going to the grocery store. Anybody want anything? Well, with these prices, you can buy all my groceries. Look, going back to the box, I do want to address a comment. DA system set up by Dems and Republicans if it's legal. The system is set up by Dems and Republicans. Yeah, but it's set up by wealthy
Dems and Republicans. It's not set up for you and I. It's just not that way. Republicans will sabotage aid and act like they are for the people. I don't want to use the term sabotage. I get your point because I think you're right. I just don't like the term sabotage, but Republicans are not for social programs. Fact, I mean, that's just a fact. They are not for social programs. Welfare, food stamps, housing assistance, health care, tuition loan forgiveness. They are not for social programs. Any social program you come up with, the right is going to say it's socialism. They are not for. I mean, if you really go deep enough into it, the right is not even for public school. I'm talking about kindergarten through 8th, K through 8. The right is for everything being privatized. They are for the private sector. Let the private, what do they call it? Let the free market decide. If you're poor, you're asked out in those environments. The right is not for any social programs at all. It's a pull yourself up by your bootstraps mindset, which is why I always state that shows the complaint of instead of sending money to the Ukraine, help out Americans. It's bullshit. If you're against all of the social programs, how are you going to help out Americans? This is why I always say this, is that the Ukraine war started in February of 2022. That's what the war just started 2.5 years ago or so. Notice you don't hear a bunch of Republican politicians bragging about how they used to help out Americans before the money went overseas. They weren't doing it. So when you hear people say, well, we can help out, you're not. You're going to go right back to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. There's no history of how much they were doing for Americans before the money went overseas. They weren't doing it then either. Trump is projecting exactly what he will do in withholding aid if you don't kiss his boot. Kiss the ring is scary. That is scary, and there is validity to it. Trump rewards loyalty. I will say that about Trump. He rewards loyalty, and he is heavy on punishment for disloyalty. Less misinformation. We are all at the same budget we spent under Trump. Let me go back to the box. We'll continue on with the program. Justin Hayes for 997. Basically, our total government had never been for the people. Well, I don't disagree with that. I don't buy into that whole thing about we could be helping out Americans instead of sending money to the Ukraine. That ain't happening. That is not going to happen. If you think Trump getting in there and ending the Ukraine assistance, all of a sudden your life is going to change, that ain't going to happen. That money is going to go right back to the people who were getting it before we started helping the Ukraine. And you ain't one of those people. That ain't going to happen. Johnson says they can wait until after the election. Everybody's trying to push shit off. The same, you got to give Biden credit with the whole port worker strike. Delaying that until January, which is 2 months after the election, the Biden administration has something to do with that because they knew the Republicans were salivating. Like, man, we're going to love the fact that these ports are not going to be worked. These barges are going to be off in the ocean, not delivering product, and the price of every damn thing is going to go up. And we can continue blaming Biden for how bad the economy is, along with Kamala Harris. They were salivating over that. And politically, the left would have did the same thing, but we know the right was going to blame Biden for all of the occurrences that came down the pipe from that strike, even though Biden ain't got nothing to do with that. Biden ain't got nothing to do with that strike. But shit was going to go up in price, and Biden was going to get the blame for it. So Biden is part of the fact that strike got delayed until January. And I see the comments. Fancy Pressy says it is their fault. How is the port workers strike Biden's fault? They're bitching over salaries. Now, the right is not for big government telling people what they have to pay. How is Biden at fault for that? Let me know. Trump was friends of the owners. Like I said, I know the right was going to be blaming that on Biden for sure when prices started going up. Yep, it definitely would have tanked Harris's run for president. I don't know if it would have tanked it, but it would have been more, it would have hurt it Because Trump would have been saying, if I get in there, I can end this strike in 24 hours. He would have been saying that. Because they take advantage and own a lot of mansions that have nothing to do with the, neither side wanted that strike. I don't believe that, mountain loving mama. I do not believe that. You're saying neither side wanted that strike? I think even if Trump was president and the liberals were hoping to take down Trump and there was a strike like that about to happen, even the liberals would want that. The idea that nobody wanted that's not true. Now, maybe some people didn't want it, particularly the port workers who need to feed their families. But I guarantee you there were tons of people on the right that wanted that strike. They were certainly counting on that strike to raise the prices of goods. I do believe people wanted that. People are political. They don't mind watching this country burn if it'll give them what they want on both sides. I think there are people on both sides that would love to see that. There are people who wanted the sniper to move that shot a couple inches to the right. People want some pretty dark shit to happen. Yeah, people definitely. I mean, I've had folks on the line saying that they wish they had not hit his ear and had went into his skull. People wanted the guy taken out. You're gonna tell me nobody on the right wanted that strike? Come on now. Looking in the comments, not true. No one wants to suffer. Bullshit. They just was joking about hanging Mike Pence. They clearly wanted him to suffer that day. How does Trump know when something or someone is the worst in the world? He doesn't. He likes to exaggerate, and his people eats it up. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If a person is a very successful moneymaker, it's not going to be uncommon for people who dream and wish they could have that kind of money to believe anything they say. I made a mistake of doing that and ended up following a successful landlord in Chicago and losing money behind him. I mean, he had a bunch of properties, and that was my dream, was to do that. I had about 3 at the time. He had about 20. I was going to believe, I was new to the game. I was going to believe anything he told me because he was so successful. I could see people, Trump is known for that. He's known for that. I could see people believing him. Looking at the job market will suffer if the war in Ukraine comes to an end. You think so? You think the war in Ukraine is creating that many jobs in America? All right, let me go back to the box. I don't know about that one. Holiday 1360. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program, Holiday. Harold Daggett, ILA president, meet with Trump 2023. Oh.
Hey, how you doing, Hans?
I'm doing good. Do you see a possible fear by a lot of Republicans of former President Trump? They won't admit that Biden won the election.
Oh yeah. They're absolutely terrified of Trump. It's almost to the point where it's almost seems biblical.
Damn.
They can't even speak his name. It's almost like if they say he lost 3 times and tapped their heels, they're liable to burst into flames. Yeah, they're terrified. Come on. He breaks down grown ass men who in themselves have some kind of power, and he breaks them down into little cowards. And I've never seen it. Have you named one person on the right that hasn't been ostracized that actually stood up to President Trump?
Not one. They're all rhino. Well, I'll say this. I'll disagree from this standpoint. There are plenty of folks on the right that have stood up to Trump and they're still favorable, but it's because they came back and kissed up, like Ted Cruz and what is Lindsey Graham and some of those folks. Even J.D. Vance called him Hitler. But anybody that's critical of Trump and they stood by their principles and remain that way, they're rhinos, and many of them are out of a job.
And many of them out of a job. I mean, maybe a show should be geared towards what happens to these guys if Trump loses, because like the guy you had on earlier, I think the gentleman's name was Jeremy. I don't think Jeremy and a lot of the Trump supporters, because I was a Trump supporter at one point, and me being inside that damn echo chamber, I think everybody feels the same about Trump as I did. It's like me having a big fat wife, and to me, I only see her through the filters of love.
Wait, don't hate on my BBWs now. Don't hate on my BBWs.
Ain't nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them, brother. Believe me. That's
more,
some of the best.
More cushion for the pushing, but keep going.
Yeah. But, and I see her as beautiful, but I don't realize the rest of the world sees her as a big girl. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with big girls. When I was a Trump supporter, I thought everybody thought the same of him as I did. And until you get out of that echo chamber, and it takes a while, and then 2 weeks after you look back, you realize everybody don't feel the same about this dude as I do.
Yeah.
My God, people can't stand this dude. And I guarantee you he's a lot more unfavorable out there than he is favorable.
So you think that Kamala Harris might pull it off?
I'm starting to think we're going to have a female president. Yeah.
Wow.
I think I think she's going to win Pennsylvania. She's going to win Wisconsin. She's going to win Michigan. She wins those. It's pretty much
It's
a wrap.
over. It's over.
I think she's up in Nevada. Who knows? I mean, unless they come out with an old VHS sex tape of her boinking too. I think she might have a chance.
But the crazy thing is, you're saying that if they come out with an old VHS tape of her, it would hurt her campaign. If they came out with an old VHS tape of Trump, I don't think it would hurt him at all.
It would not hurt his campaign at all.
No.
Because there comes right now at the point where we almost expect stuff like that from Trump. Yeah. Right now, if you go in some of these rooms, they're talking about, well, Kamala Harris had a relationship with Puffy. Come on now, how many pictures have we seen of Puffy and Trump? Yeah. Are we saying he didn't go to one of those parties? Come on now. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, we almost expect it out of Trump. We expect a little hanky-panky to go on with this guy from time to time. It's just the way
I will say, I don't know what type of president we'll get out of Trump the second go round, but I will say at this point, I feel confident he could get away with a whole lot of shit. He may not be corrupt, but at this point, I feel confident that if he was, he would get away with a lot of it, because this is something I've asked many of my Trump supporters, because they tend to believe all the media is out to get him, and even a lot of right-wing politicians are out to get him. The point I always say, let's assume, now, I'm not saying Trump did anything wrong, but let's just assume for shits and giggles, he actually did commit a major felony. Who could tell you and you would actually believe it? And there really is no one. So he actually could do something, because there's nobody that could tell him that he did it, and they would say, yeah, okay, well, maybe this guy's telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, imagine this. Let's say, for the sake of argument, Kamala wins the presidency, and Trump still has all these cases going on federally. And Kamala, out of the kindness of her heart, says, you know what, I'm going to give you a pardon, but this is what you have to do. You have to go in front of the American people, and you got to admit all your wrongs. I'm willing to bet his supporters will still say that he didn't do a damn thing wrong.
Oh, well, yeah, I can see, but I can understand him on that. If Kamala Harris required for Trump to get a pardon, for him to go on TV and confess and apologize, they're going to say, just like with the taxes, you use the system to your benefit. If I know I'm going to be found guilty of a witch hunt, and my only way out of it is to just simply apologize for the sake of my freedom, I think most Americans would do that. So yeah, you're right. That wouldn't make a difference.
But most of us on the left already know it's bullshit. We know that we know the election wasn't stolen. Yeah. It's stolen now. It wasn't stolen in 2016 when you won. He just, everything is great, like with the job numbers. The job numbers are great when I'm president, but when I'm not president, the job numbers are made up. Everything is rigged. I mean, he's been crying wolf for so damn long. I'm surprised these people don't see through it. It's crazy, man.
They believe it. All right, Holiday, I do got to move it on, but they believe it, man.
All right, take it easy, brother.
Anytime, always a pleasure.
Even though we lost. All right, bye.
Always a pleasure. Real quick in the comments, Will G says, it's funny, MAGA is mad at aid to other countries, complaining it could help America, but hates student loan relief. That is the point I was making, is that MAGA often says that instead of sending money to Ukraine, why don't you help out Americans? But then when you come up with plans that would help Americans out, like student loan forgiveness or tuition forgiveness, whatever they want to call it, universal health care, and all these other plans that would predominantly help out Americans, they're against them. That's why I said earlier, you're not going to get, that's just what the proper statement should be. We don't like the Ukraine and don't want to help out the Ukrainians. They just leave it at that. All of that, we could be helping out Americans. That's just a bunch of, to quote
Joe Biden malarkey to get people to sway onto the other side. Just come on and say we think the Ukrainians should not be getting help from America and leave it at that. All of this, we could be helping each other out. You're not going to support any of that. You just want money you just want assistance to stop going to the Ukraine. Come out and just say that. All of that extra stuff being added on there is not true. Trump tells Diddy when they meet at his freak-offs, drill, baby, drill without the baby oil. Now that is wild, cooey. Jesus Christ. All right, let me go back to the box. Goodness gracious. Help all Americans, says Mount Loving Mama. Well, like I said, I'm giving you things that they're against. They're not even talking about helping out the women that are going to have these children due to the rolling back of Roe v. Wade. Has anybody heard of a single social program that any of these states that do have limitations or outright bans on abortion, has anybody heard of any of those states passing social programs to address the fact that there are going to be a lot more kids born? Not one. They're talking about putting women that have abortions in jail. They're okay with taking care of those women. But the women who have the babies, I haven't heard any programs where they're going to help those women out. So no, I don't see it. I just don't see it. And you says false, Mountain Loving Mama. Well, I'm asking a question. Have you heard of programs being passed by the right to take care of women that have babies? You know, I mean, it's going to be prenatal medicine requirements. There's surgical, there's hospital stays, there's time off work. Have you heard anything? Let me know. Let me know. I haven't. No one is going to jail for abortion. That is false. That is 100% false. You're telling me my statement is false and you counter with that? Why would they roll back Roe v. Wade and pass laws limiting or banning abortion if they're not going to enforce it, which is what you're saying? Not only are they talking about putting people in jail, they've talked about the death penalty for women that have illegal abortions. Yeah, you're trying. Listen, I'm willing to take pushback and a little bit of criticism, but you're just wrong. That's just flat out wrong. We've actually had a show on that. I'll see if I can find a clip. There was a politician, I think in North or South Carolina, suggesting that women that have an abortion should qualify for terminal punishment. So yeah, I really, like I said, I'm fine with pushback, but yeah, you're flat out wrong on that one. Completely wrong on it. I'll see what I can come up with real quick here. Just for it.
A North Texas lawmaker is sponsoring a bill that could have women facing the death penalty for having an abortion. That's right. Not only would abortions be banned, they would become a serious crime. Arlington Republican Tony Tinderholt is the lawmaker behind this bill. He says it would accomplish one goal, bringing equal treatment for unborn human beings under the law. He's not getting a lot of support. In fact, top Republicans say that bill won't even go up for a vote.
Now, thank God what she said at the end, that the Republicans are not supporting it, but clearly that's a Republican that proposed it. So, and that's in Texas.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards. Yep. But did you know we also print these?
First at 6 this Monday, a bill in Columbia could make the death penalty a possible punishment for women in South Carolina who get an abortion.
News 13's Claire Purnell is live in our newsroom with what the bill changes and also reaction tonight from Planned Parenthood. Claire?
Bob and Megan, if this bill is passed, the new bill would make getting an abortion equivalent to committing homicide. House Bill 3549, or the South Carolina Prenatal Equal Protection Act of 2023, was introduced to the State House last week by Representative Rob Harris of Spartanburg County. The bill was pre-filed back in December and is still sitting in the Judiciary Committee. Representative Harris says I
don't know how this is going to turn out, but I will play it. But let me just say this for folks saying, well, nobody backs that up. This is equivalent to transgender surgery in jail, where a lot of liberals don't back up some of the far left shit, but you guys give credit to the whole liberal party for somebody coming up with ridiculous. That's what this is. These are legitimate Republican politicians passing some real far right shit, but you're going to say, well, because most people don't back it up, it doesn't give credit. If a liberal was promoting, terminating a 2-month-old, you be blaming it on a whole damn liberal party. So just be fair about it. Be fair about it. This stuff is coming from Republican politicians. It ain't made up.
Move to replace the Human Life Protection Act with the South Carolina Prenatal Equal Protection Act of 2023.
What I did the other day is I took the opportunity while the rest of the House was dealing with H 3774, a Human Life Protection Act, a different bill. I put the first amendment on that bill when we were processing it on the floor.
That's a 3-minute video. I don't want to play the whole thing, but that's South Carolina. So I went from Texas to South Carolina. There are right-wing politicians trying to kill women. I mean, there's no denying it. Hopefully it stays unpopular with most of the Republican Party. But clearly, I'm giving you examples. There are right-wing politicians that want women to be killed for doing this. I just gave you 2 of them in different states. And there are other ones on here. I'm just letting you know that those aren't the only 2 places it happens. So, but I only brought this up because somebody stated women are not going to go to jail for abortion. They're talking about killing them. They're talking about killing them. So if you can have somebody talking about killing them, you definitely going to have people suggesting that they go to jail. All right. I don't know what this one is.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
I'm not going to play that.
Welcome back.
That I know is a liberal publication, so I'm not even going to play that. But yeah, like I said, the fact is you can say it's not going to happen, but these politicians are passing this. Now, this one here, once again, we talked about Texas. We talked about South Carolina.
The death penalty for an abortion. Some Arizona lawmakers want county prosecutors to enforce murder laws against women who get abortions and the doctors who provide them.
This new bill coming on the 48th anniversary of the landmark Roe versus Wade decision that protected a woman's right to end her pregnancy.
Team 12 political insider Bram Resnick explains why the people behind the bill claim the landmark Supreme Court decision doesn't matter.
If passed by the legislature,
I want to pause this because I've never heard any of these things. I see in the comments 16 that says it's fear mongering. The problem is I shouldn't be able to find this shit so easy. It would be fear mongering if this was some liberal, Rachel Maddow or somebody saying this on MSNBC. But I'm going into these towns and this is their nightly news. This isn't MSNBC or CNN. This is Channel 12 NBC Arizona. The same channel you'd watch Law and Order on or something like that. This is their nightly news. It's fear-mongering. They're actually giving you the names and the actual bills that these people are trying to pass. Fear-mongering. Maybe you should understand where the fear is coming from. It's coming from what they're doing.
Political insider Bram Resnick explains why the people behind the bill claim the landmark Supreme Court decision doesn't matter.
If passed by the legislature, this would be the most extreme abortion law in the country. But in somewhat of a surprise, the leading abortion opponent in Arizona has come out against the bill.
This is a piece of legislation.
A religious rally celebrating a bill that would make abortion murder under Arizona law.
The Supreme Court was never meant to be the supreme being in our nation.
The pastor leading the rally claims Roe versus Wade is meaningless, even though Arizona's anti-abortion law hasn't been enforced since the Supreme Court ruling.
I'm not a judge, and that's not my lane.
Pro-life Republican and bill sponsor Walt Blackman refusing to comment on the possibility of a death penalty for a woman who has an abortion. Here's what the bill would do. Give county attorneys the power to prosecute homicide by abortion, regardless of conflicting federal laws or court decisions. The crime would cover an unborn child in the womb at any stage of development. There would be no exceptions for women who There would be no exceptions for women who choose to end their pregnancy.
The bill itself is pretty horrifying, and regardless.
Yeah, I just want to come back on here. What the hell? Why did the screen get so fucked up? I don't know what I just did there, but I just want to reiterate. I think it's maybe because of my monitor. Some reason the coloring on TikTok just got really screwed up. But I just want to reiterate. The notion that this is fear-mongering is ridiculous. This is coming from
the Republican politicians in those states. I mean, fact is, there are a lot of Republicans that want to execute women that have an abortion. Fortunately, it seems like the ones that are in power, cooler heads are prevailing. So it seems like the ones that are in leadership that actually have the say so are not agreeing with it. But I'm going to say one thing. We have a major national election coming up. And the rolling back of Roe v. Wade right now is not very popular. So right now, it would not be a good thing to come forward and say you believe women should be executed. It does. Now, after the election, when you don't have to worry about the election anymore, things could change. Things could change because at the end of the day, we know Trump has basically calmed down folks like J.D. Vance and some of them because it's not good for the election. But come January or February, once Trump gets in office, he don't have to worry about it anymore. Now he can go ahead and reward his constituents who put him in office. So I don't feel confident this is fear-mongering by any means. Like I said, they're talking about killing the women. A year or two in prison is nothing. They're talking about murdering them. So when you say that nobody's going to jail for abortion, that sounds insane to me. They're at murder. Regular taxpayers pay for what the right does not. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It's funny. MAGA only thinks about the taxpayer for student loans, but tax cuts for the rich. So what? Who do you think picks up the rich people's tax discounts? You and I, as Rick James was saying, that hit song from the 1970s. You and I. Looking in the comments real quick before I continue on the program. Man, it's crazy that I didn't know this stuff was out here, by the way. I only looked that up on the internet, those abortion things, because somebody in the comments said it's fear-mongering. I had heard about one area looking to give women a death penalty for having an abortion. And somebody in the comments said, well, that's just fear-mongering. So it inspired me to look it up. And apparently that's three. I don't give you 3 states now: South Carolina, Texas, and Arizona. That's 3 where they're actually trying to kill women. Jesus. And to say it's fear-mongering, sorry, I meant, do you think they'll raise taxes on the corporate donors? I don't quite get that one. In the comments, Boilerman says won't pass. I'm not confident in that. I think that now you're saying that these abortion laws where you could get the death penalty won't pass. I want to agree with you, but all it takes is a far-right politician, and it could happen. I don't feel 100% confident. Think about, I gave you 4 states. There's a lot of people coming up with these bills. So
Hi, I'm JT.
I don't feel totally confident that what you're saying is valid. I gave you
And I made the search engine for
South Carolina,
tell you what it does.
Texas, and I gave you Arizona.
Not a good message for any of us, to be right honest about it. I mean, look, the people in this state, we have people that are pro-choice and pro-life.
Missouri Governor Mike Parson speaking out for the very first time on a proposed law filed by Republican lawmakers that would charge women who receive abortions in Missouri with homicide. There's been a lot of talk about that. Well, now the bill is getting pushback from anti-abortion groups. Our Missouri Capitol Bureau Chief Joe McClain has the story from Jefferson City.
It's important to note that abortion is already illegal in the state of Missouri. All these bills would do is open the door for prosecutors to be able to criminally charge people who get them. And these bills are getting major pushback, both from abortion rights advocates and anti-abortion groups.
That's the 4th state. I didn't know this stuff was out here. I'm going to be honest with you. Until somebody in my comment section said it's fear-mongering. That's 4 states. Do you really think it's fear-mongering? You really think it's fear-mongering that all of these Republicans in all of these different states are trying to kill women? Wow, I didn't know this. Like I said, a lot of times on the show, I learn things in real time, and this is an example. Because you hear women talking about we're not going back and they're trying to take away women's rights. There are a lot of Republican men that want to see a woman killed if she has an abortion. I'm showing you the clips right now. They're giving you names. They're giving you bills. This is not
Democrat rhetoric. They're actually telling you the names of the people that are trying to do it. Wow. I don't, like I said, I'm wondering how many states have done that. That's 4 states I don't gave you already that I didn't even know. Jesus Christ. Didn't know this existed. Connecticut.
Representative Rowe. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Certainly this is a difficult and important debate that we're having this afternoon and this evening. And I think there are compelling arguments that we've heard on both sides.
This one, I don't want to play because the audio sounds terrible on this one, but it does say State of House Representatives debate on HB 6578, House Bill 6578, which would repeal the death penalty and replace it with life in prison without parole. That's Connecticut. That's Connecticut. They're on the House floor debating that shit. Damn. All right, I'm going to stop it because it's really depressing to know it's this bad. I didn't know all this was out here. I did not know that. Fear-mongering. Okay. I'll tell you one thing. The right would not want this to get out. Fear-mongering. Okay. All of these Republicans. Now, like I said, if you had liberals passing, if you had this many liberals in chambers all over liberal states trying to pass laws to terminate a baby at 2 months, there's no way in hell the right would call that fear-mongering. There's a lot of people that's doing this. A lot of people you see doing this. So, yeah, it ain't fear-mongering. There's no way. It's nice to try to say it is, but it shouldn't be this much evidence out there if it was fear-mongering. I mean, I can find more evidence on that than I can on Haitian migrants eating cats and dogs. Anyhow, folks, unfortunately, so many will be willing to listen to the crazies. Well, if you are an actual elected politician and you are in the House chambers proposing these bills, they have to listen to you. They have to. If you have the right to propose a bill, it can be shot down, but they have to listen to you. These are elected officials coming up with this shit. This ain't some evangelical pastor that is on the street saying that women should be, banished to hell. So these people are going into the House chambers and coming up with actual bills. They're trying to do this for real. There's no way in hell I feel confident in favor of women that one of these things won't eventually get through. There's no way I feel that way. I mean, because like I said, they said the same thing about Roe v. Wade. It's adjudicated 50 years ago. It'll never happen. It's liberal fear-mongering, as you pointed out. It's fear-mongering. They were saying that if Trump gets elected in 2016, they're going to take away women's right to choose and roll back Roe v. Wade. It was fear-mongering. That's exactly what they said some 9 years ago. It was fear-mongering. It's not fear-mongering anymore. So now all of a sudden, well, the death penalty part is fear-mongering, or they're going to put you in jail. That's fear-mongering. Why would they fight so hard to do this if they're not going to enforce somebody violating it? It's not fear-mongering. I will talk about whatever I want to talk about in this TikTok. Says Bullet Man. You're free to talk about whatever you want to talk about here because we are for free speech. You don't have to accept anything said here at face value, including if it comes from yours truly. We go left of Bernie Sanders from having dinner with QAnon. We certainly support free speech on the program all day, every day, but that ain't fear-mongering in regards to that abortion shit. It's been that way for the longest time, says Will G. Ed says, so murdering a baby is now being considered murder. Here's the problem, and I do agree that abortion is taking a life. I don't disagree with that, but if you're not going to help the mom, you're not going to do it. I mean, certainly if she's been forcibly pregnant, you don't. I mean, it's really I don't give a damn about the mom mindset. I just want to save that baby. They say Missouri and Arkansas are the top 10 in mothers' death and mothers dying while having birth. Mothers' death at birth. Missouri and Arkansas are part of the top 10. Well, the poverty and the uninsured is probably going to be where you find the most of it. But in regards to deeming abortion to be murder, here's what I don't like about it. if I have let's say I got a baby in my car, sitting in the passenger seat, 1-year-old baby or something like that, sitting in the passenger seat, and maybe I'm doing crack or something. Now the baby's sitting there crying and inhaling all the smoke or whatever. If something happens to that baby, I should be held responsible. I mean, I'm introducing that baby to drugs. I should be held responsible for, what do they call it, negligence or even, harming a child. But what if the child is inside of me? This is where the abortion laws can go out of hand. If you are a mom that's pregnant while addicted to narcotics, if you believe that is a baby at conception, it's no different than the kid sitting next to me in the car seat. If that mom is impregnated and she's addicted to narcotics, she can be charged with the same shit you would charge me with the baby sitting next to me. This is why I don't like the abortion laws, because I know they will go further than just saying it's murder. If let's say, for instance, a mom, first time ever, boyfriend's taking her to Disney World. First time ever going. She's been dying to go. Young mother, 17, 18, whatever the case may be, eager to go to Disney World. Finds out she's pregnant. Pisses on the stick or whatever. She doesn't tell anybody. I'll tell her when I get back. I don't want to turn this trip down. People might start suggesting I don't go. She go on this trip, get on a wrong ride or something. It causes her to have a miscarriage. If they can prove that she knew that she was pregnant before they went, that's a murder charge. This is the kind of stuff that's going to end up happening. All of the things you would normally charge a person with, child neglect, child endangerment, that can now happen to women that are pregnant. If you do irresponsible things while you're pregnant, they're going to be charging you. Murder's murder. Remember, it's a baby at conception. Well, then you're responsible for anything that you do that might cost that baby its life. When I drank too much, all of that. No different than if you're giving a 1-month-old a shot of vodka. If you're pregnant and you're caught drinking, what's the difference? It's a baby at conception. What's the difference? So the idea that women are not going to go to jail behind this is crazy, because I'm giving you a ton of avenues where you can take this. Once you start viewing that as a baby at conception, then anything the mom does irresponsible. It's no different than doing it with a 1-year-old. You're going to put a lot of women in jail behind this. I don't know why people think otherwise. A lot of women are going to get punished behind this shit. Because everything you do while you're pregnant, you can be held accountable for it. True talk, get ready, America. Yeah, I mean, and certainly baby daddies, that may be disgruntled. She did this or she did that while pregnant. Hell, you might be caught doing 20, 30 over the limit, just speeding. Imagine if you got doing 20 or 30 over the limit while you got a 1-year-old in the car with you. Wouldn't the police treat that different? Well, she's pregnant. She's doing 20 or 30 over the limit with a kid. I've said this before in the program a few times. This is about saving the life of the unborn. There is nothing good coming down the pipe for women. It is all bad, all bad, all bad. If you, in terms of fertile women, it's 100% bad. The level of responsibility, there are a million avenues this can go down, and they're all bad. It's all bad for women. I'm just saying that. We have low regard for life in general, says Mount Loving Mama. Yeah, well, we're capitalists. We put money over life. Better answer, raise better men and women with more self-respect and ability to commit, says Bernard. That's what I'm talking about. What he just said. Better answer, raise better women and better men with more self-respect and ability to commit. This is literally a law. This is legislating morality. We're going to make people more responsible by force. That's what this is. Now, you often hear in gun debates, you can't fix stupid. You can't legislate morality. You can't pass a gun law to make people more responsible. That's what this is with abortion. If you don't like it, close your legs. That's what this is. We are legislating responsibility. We're going to make them more responsible. even if it means locking them up or, God forbid, executing them. Disappointing shit. Anyhow, folks, I do appreciate the 86,000. We certainly made it work. I almost got to 100,000. But I do appreciate that. Thank you for following the program. My subscribers on YouTube, Monday through Friday, we are here. We'll be here just about every day until the election. Simply put, biggest election in our lifetime. We all need to vote, regardless of what side of the aisle you may be on. You do need to show up and do your damn civic duty. It is your boy, Tim. Catch you tomorrow. And the same on my TikTok view. Cowboy game. Damn right. See you tomorrow.